Welcome, traveller of the waking world. You have found your way to this sanctuary, a place carved out of starlight and silence, designed specifically for your rest. Here, the noise of the day simply cannot reach you. It is dissolved by the vast velvet expanse of the night that surrounds us. Before we begin our journey into the green and quiet places of the earth, take a moment to acknowledge the space you inhabit right now. Feel the surface beneath you, supporting your weight, holding you safe. Allow your eyes to close, not with force, but with the gentle, heavy surrender of a curtain falling at the end of a long, beautiful play. There is nothing you need to do here. There are no expectations, no deadlines, and no demands on your attention. You're merely a consciousness floating in a warm, protective stream of relaxation. Imagine, if you will, that the air around you is turning a deep, twilight blue, softening the edges of reality. With every breath you take, you're inhaling calmness, and with every breath you release, you're letting go of a little more tension, a little more worry. Your body knows how to sleep. It knows how to heal. We're simply giving it permission to return to that ancient rhythm. Tonight, we shall drift through a garden that knows no boundaries. It is a garden that exists in the timeless realm of dreams, where nature operates on a timescale far slower and more peaceful than our own. We will float among the plants, the silent guardians of the earth, and listen to the wisdom of their stillness. Imagine yourself becoming lighter, untethered from gravity, ready to explore the lush, verdant secrets of the botanical world. As my voice guides you, let the images form effortlessly in your mind's eye. If your mind wanders, that is perfectly fine. Simply let it wander back to the sound of the words, like a leaf drifting on a gentle current. Let us begin our descent into the verdant dream, sinking deeper and deeper into the embrace of the natural world. Picture, if you can, the invisible miracle that happens in every green leaf, a silent alchemy that sustains the breath of the world. It is the process of turning light into life. Imagine you are small enough to stand upon the surface of a single emerald leaf. Beneath your feet, the surface is smooth and cool, a sprawling landscape of green. Above you, the sun pours down its golden energy, warm and relentless. But here, on this leaf, that intensity is captured, tamed, and transformed. This is the quiet work of photosynthesis. It is a process that makes no sound, demands no attention, and yet it is the foundation of all breath. Visualize the sunlight striking the surface of the leaf, filtering through the translucent cells like light through a stained glass window in a great cathedral. Inside, the plant is harvesting this light, drinking it in to create sweetness, to create energy. It is a slow, deliberate drinking of the sun, and in exchange for this light, the plant releases a gift. Visualize a shimmering, invisible mist rising from the pores of the leaf. This is oxygen, pure, clean, life-giving air. It rises up to meet the sky, a silent offering of gratitude. As you lie there, breathing slowly, imagine that your own breath is synchronized with this ancient exchange. As you breathe out, you offer the plants what they need. As you breathe in, you accept their gift. It is a perfect circle, a loop of reciprocity that has existed for eons. There is a profound comfort in knowing that you are connected to the plant world in this intimate way. You do not have to strive to breathe. The plants are there, constantly, tirelessly, crafting the air for you, turning the harshness of the sun into a cool, breathable atmosphere. Let this thought cradle you. The world is breathing with you, a slow, rhythmic pulse of green and gold, taking care of you even while you sleep. From the sun-drenched surface of the leaf, our consciousness drifts downward, sliding along the smooth, sturdy stem, past the rustling foliage, until we reach the dark, rich soil. We sink beneath the surface into the cool, damp embrace of the earth, to witness the silence of the roots. Here, in the permanent twilight of the underground, there is a sense of absolute stability. Roots are the anchors of the world. They are the definition of patience. Imagine the feeling of being held firmly in place, grounded against all storms, all winds, all chaos. Visualize a great root system spreading out like a wooden lightning bolt frozen in the earth. These roots are covered in fine, microscopic hairs that seek out moisture with an intelligence that is slow and deliberate. They do not rush. They push through the soil, grain by grain, navigating around stones, seeking the hidden pockets of water that lie deep within the ground. It is a slow-motion search that takes years, decades, even centuries. There is a heavy, comforting weight down here. It is the weight of security. Feel that sense of grounding within yourself now. Just as the roots grip the earth, imagine your body sinking deeper into your bed, held fast by gravity. You're immovable, you're solid. The roots draw up water, a cool, refreshing stream that travels upward against gravity, defying the laws of physics through sheer persistence. It is a silent hydraulic pump, working effortlessly in the dark. Think of the strength it takes to hold a giant tree upright in a gale. That strength lies here, buried, unseen, and humble. It is a reminder that the most important parts of us are often the ones that are hidden, the parts that keep us nourished and stable when the world above is turbulent. Rest in this dark, cool stability, feeling the moisture and the earth surrounding you with a protective shell. As we move horizontally through the soil, passing through the tangled embrace of the roots, we eventually rise up, breaking the surface in a shaded, misty forest. Here, the ground is not bare. It is cloaked in a velvet softness that invites touch. We have found the world of moss. Moss is one of the most ancient lineages of plants, a survivor from a time before flowers, before seeds, before the great forests. It is the memory of the early earth. Picture a vast boulder, grey and hard, completely softened by a thick, lush layer of emerald green moss. Imagine running your hand over this living carpet. It is cool to the touch, damp with the morning dew, and incredibly soft. It gives way under your fingertips like the finest memory foam, springing back slowly when you lift your hand. Moss does not compete for height. It does not strive to touch the sun. It is content to stay low, to hug the contours of the earth, to cover the fallen logs and stones in a gentle green embrace. It quiets the forest. It absorbs sound, making the woods feel hushed and reverent. There is a lesson in the moss, the power of softness. In a world that is often hard and sharp, moss thrives by being yielding. It drinks in the moisture from the air, swelling and turning a vibrant, luminous green when it rains, and shrinking back into a dormant, patient sleep when it is dry. It can wait for water for years if it must. Visualize yourself lying down on a bed of this moss, looking up at the canopy. The ground beneath you is spongy and conforming to your shape. It smells of rain and rich earth. It is a scent that triggers a deep, primal relaxation in the brain. You're cushioned by the ancient velvet skin of the forest, safe in the low, quiet places where the wind does not reach. Beneath the layer of moss, deeper than the eye can see, there is a secret conversation happening. We drift back into the soil, but this time we look not at the thick roots of trees, but at the delicate gossamer threads that connect them. This is the fungal network, often called the Wood Wide Web. It is a vast underground nervous system that connects the forest into a single, breathing organism. Picture billions of tiny white threads, thinner than a spider's silk, weaving through the darkness, linking the root of one tree to the root of another, miles away. Through these threads, the forest communicates. If a tree on one side of the forest is thirsty, the network sends water from a place of abundance. If a sapling is growing in the shadows, too small to reach the sun, the older towering trees pump sugar down into their roots and through this network to feed the young one. It is a community of care that exists entirely out of sight. Imagine a pulse of light travelling along these threads, a message of support glowing in the dark earth. You are witnessing the ultimate act of connection. There is no loneliness here. Every plant, every tree, every shrub is holding hands with its neighbour beneath the soil. They support one another. As you drift through this concept, let it dissolve any feelings of isolation you might carry. You too are part of a vast web of life, connected to the air you breathe, the earth you rest upon, and the energy of the cosmos. The forest knows that survival is not about competition, but about cooperation. It is a slow, silent symphony of sharing. Feel the warmth of that connection, the certainty that nothing in nature is ever truly alone, and let that sense of belonging lull you deeper into sleep. Rising gently from the soil once more, we find ourselves in a prehistoric grove, filled with the curling architectural shapes of ferns. Before us stands a fiddlehead fern, tightly coiled, poised on the brink of unfurling. This shape, the spiral, is sacred in nature. It represents the potential of life, the journey from the centre outward. Visualize this green spiral, tight and compact, covered in a soft brown fuzz that protects its tender tissues. It is waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect warmth, to open. Watch, in your mind's eye, as the process of unfurling begins. It is not a sudden movement, but a glacial, graceful opening. Slowly, imperceptibly, the tight coil begins to relax. It stretches upward, unrolling its spine, releasing the tension it has held. It is a physical manifestation of relaxation. Just as the fern uncoils, imagine the muscles in your back, your neck, and your shoulders uncoiling. Imagine the tension unwinding inch by inch, creating space and length in your body. The fern does not rush to be a leaf. It enjoys the journey of opening. As it expands, it reveals the intricate lace-like patterns of its fronds, a fractal design that repeats endlessly, soothing to the eye. The green is deep and prehistoric, a colour that has soothed eyes for millions of years. This plant has seen the dinosaurs. It has seen the shifting of continents. It carries the wisdom of endurance. Let your mind trace the spiral of the fiddlehead, round and round, smoother and smoother, until the spiral leads you down into a deep hypnotic centre of rest. You are unfurling, expanding and relaxing into your true peaceful self. Leaving the shadowed grove of ferns, our spirit drifts on a breeze to a place of varying light and sound. We find ourselves in a bamboo forest. The air here is different. It is filled with a hollow wooden music. The bamboo stalks rise up like emerald pillars, straight and true, reaching for the sky with incredible speed. Some bamboo can grow over 1 meter in a single day, a testament to the explosive yet quiet power of life. But it is not their speed that brings us peace tonight. It is their flexibility. A wind begins to blow through the grove. Watch how the bamboo reacts. The oak tree might stand rigid and risk breaking, but the bamboo yields. It bends. It bows low before the wind, its leaves rustling with a sound like rushing water. It dances with the force that pushes against it. It offers no resistance, and because it offers no resistance, it cannot be broken. It is hollow inside, empty of ego, empty of stubbornness. This hollowness creates a resonant chamber, turning the wind into a soothing, clacking song. Imagine yourself as the bamboo. When the stresses of the world blow against you, do not stand rigid. Do not fight. Simply bend, sway with the wind. Let the trouble pass over you, knowing that your roots are deep and you will spring back to your centre as soon as the wind dies down. There is a profound freedom in this flexibility. To bend is to survive. To yield is to conquer. Hear the gentle clack-clack of the stalks hitting one another, a rhythmic wooden lullaby that counts you down into a deeper state of trance. You are flexible. You are resilient. You are at peace with the wind. The wind dies down and we float away from the bamboo grove, drifting over a calm mirror-like pond. The water is still, reflecting the moon above. Rising from the dark, murky depths of the pond, we see the sacred lotus. The journey of the lotus is a story of hope and transcendence. Its roots begin in the mud, deep underwater, in the cold and the dark. It pushes its way up through the heavy water, seeking the light it knows is there, even if it cannot see it yet. And then it breaks the surface. Visualize the blossom opening. It is pristine, untouched by the mud from which it came. The petals are a soft, luminous pink or a creamy white, curving gently inward. The leaves of the lotus are hydrophobic. They repel water. If a drop of muddy water lands on them, it simply beads up like a pearl and rolls off, leaving the leaf clean and dry. This is the concept of purity, living in the world but not being stained by it. Look closely at the center of the flower. It is a masterpiece of symmetry. It exhales a subtle, sweet fragrance that floats over the water. The lotus represents the ability of the mind to rise above the murky waters of stress and anxiety, to blossom into a state of calm clarity. No matter how cloudy the water below, the flower above is perfect. Imagine that you are that flower. You have risen above the noise of the day. You're floating on the surface of the sleep pond, weightless, clean, and open to the moonlight. The mud is far below you now. Here, there is only beauty and stillness. As the moon begins to set in our inner landscape, a warm, golden glow begins to build on the horizon. We travel now to a vast open field to witness the devotion of the sunflower. These are not the small flowers of a garden, but the giants of the field, standing tall on thick, hairy stems. Their heads are heavy, filled with the spiraling patterns of seeds, a geometric perfection that mimics the galaxies. But the most relaxing quality of the sunflower is its focus. It practices heliotropism, the turning towards the sun. In the morning, the field of sunflowers faces east, greeting the dawn. As the sun moves across the sky, thousands of flower heads turn slowly, imperceptibly, tracking the source of warmth and light. They never lose sight of what nourishes them. They are in a constant state of reception. Even on a cloudy day, they know where the sun is, and at night they bow their heads, resting, resetting their position to wait for the morning. Imagine the feeling of the sun on your face, that gentle, radiant warmth that relaxes the tiny muscles around your eyes and jaw. The sunflower invites you to turn your attention toward the light, toward the positive, toward the warmth. It is a heavy, lazy feeling, like a summer afternoon where the heat makes the air shimmer and time seems to stop. You are a sunflower in a field of thousands, supported by your neighbours, basking in a golden glow. There is nothing to do but soak in the light. You are full of light. You are heavy with relaxation, bowing your head gently in the sweetness of sleep. A gentle breeze stirs the field, carrying with it a new scent, one that is famous across the world for its power to induce slumber. We drift from the golden sunflowers to a rolling hillside in Provence, painted in sweeping brushstrokes of violet and blue. This is the home of lavender. The air here is thick with fragrance. It is a clean, herbal, floral scent that seems to enter the body and immediately signal the nervous system to shut down. Visualize the rows of lavender bushes, stretching out in perfect lines toward the horizon, undulating like purple waves on a green sea. The sun has warmed the oils in the tiny purple flowers, releasing camphor and linalool into the air, molecules designed by nature to calm. Imagine walking slowly between the rows, brushing your fingertips against the tops of the flowers. A burst of scent rises with every touch. The colour purple itself is a bridge between the heat of red and the cool of blue. It is the colour of twilight, of transition, of magic. Breathe in deeply in your mind. Smell the lavender. It is cool and dry, reminiscent of clean linens and old, quiet houses. It clears the mind of clutter. Lavender has been used for thousands of years to wash away the stress of the day. It is the plant of purification. Feel the scent wrapping around you like a heavy purple blanket. It weighs down your eyelids, it slows your heart rate. It is a scent that whispers, "It is time." The fields are humming with the sound of sleepy bees, a low droning vibration that resonates in your chest, vibrating you into a deep, dreamless state. Finally, we leave the purple fields and travel to the edge of the continent, to the foggy, rugged coast where the giants dwell. We stand at the base of a redwood tree. It is impossible to see the top. It disappears into the mist hundreds of feet above. These are the ancient ones. Some of them have stood here for 2,000 years. They were saplings when empires fell. They have lived through fires, droughts and storms, and they are still here, silent and majestic. Place your hand against the bark. It is thick, fibrous, and reddish-brown, deeply furrowed like the skin of an elder. It feels warm and dry. The presence of a redwood is one of immense, overwhelming slowness. To a redwood, a human life is but a flicker of a moment. Being near them changes your perception of time. Your worries, which feel so large to you, are rendered tiny and insignificant in the shadow of this ancient endurance. The tree breathes a slow, timeless breath. The forest floor here is silent, covered in needles that dampen every footstep. The air is cool and smells of pine and ocean fog. The redwood invites you to adopt its pace. Why rush? The tree does not rush, yet it touches the sky. It stands in a state of eternal meditation. Lean your back against the trunk in your mind. Feel the solidity of 2,000 years supporting your spine. You're borrowing the strength of the ancient wood. You're timeless. You're vast. You're rooted in eternity. And in this shadow of the giants, you can finally, truly let go. From the base of that ancient redwood, where the air is still and the concept of time stretches into eternity, we allow our awareness to shift, drifting gently with the changing of the seasons. We move from the permanence of the evergreen to the beautiful, graceful surrender of the deciduous forest in autumn. Here, nature teaches us the most profound lesson of sleep, the art of letting go. Visualize a canopy of leaves above you, transforming from deep summer green to a warm, glowing tapestry of amber, russet, and gold. The sun shines through these leaves, bathing the world below in a honey-coloured light that feels nostalgic and safe. Imagine the moment a single leaf decides to fall. It is not an act of death, but an act of release. The tree cuts off the connection gently, sealing the branch so that it remains healthy, and the leaf simply slips away. Watch it in slow motion. It catches the air, rocking back and forth, cradled by the invisible currents. It spirals down, taking its time, dancing with gravity. There is no rush to hit the ground. It is a slow, hypnotic descent, a feather drifting through thick golden syrup. When it finally lands, it joins millions of others in a soft, dry rustle, a sound that is crisp and comforting, like the shifting of a heavy duvet. To walk through this autumn wood is to walk through a world that is preparing for rest. The trees are stripping themselves of their burdens, conserving their energy, turning inward for the winter's sleep. They do not cling to what was, they release it with grace. As you visualize the leaves drifting down, imagine your own thoughts are like those leaves. They have served their purpose for the day. You do not need to hold on to them anymore. Let them detach. Let them drift away, spiraling down into the soft earth, leaving your mind clear, bare, and ready for the deep quiet of the coming night. The forest floor is a soft cushion of gold, inviting you to lie down and listen to the silence of the trees standing guard in their slumber. As the golden light of the autumn forest fades, the humidity drops, and the air becomes dry and warm. We travel in our dreams to a landscape of vast open horizons, the desert. Here, amidst the sand and the stone, lives the succulent, a master of resilience and moisture. Picture the aloe vera plant growing low to the ground. Its leaves are thick, fleshy spears tapering to a gentle point. They're a cool, dusty green, smooth to the touch, with a skin that feels like polished wax. In a place where water is scarce, the succulent has learned to hold on to it, to create a reservoir within itself. Imagine slicing open one of these thick leaves. Inside, there is a clear, cooling gel. It is the very essence of hydration. It is pure, stored water, filtered and thickened by the plant's wisdom. To touch this gel is to feel an immediate drop in temperature. It soothes burns. It calms inflammation. It is a balm for the skin and a symbol for the soul. The succulent teaches us to look inward for our nourishment. It does not panic when the rain does not fall. It rests comfortably in the knowledge that it is full, that it has enough. Visualize the desert at twilight. The heat of the day is radiating off the stones, rising into the purple sky, but the succulent remains cool. It opens its pores only at night, in the cool darkness, to breathe. It waits for the peace of the evening to do its work. There is a stillness in the desert that is unlike anywhere else, a vast silent emptiness that clears the mind. You're like the succulent. You're a vessel of cool, calm water in a dry world. You're self-contained. You're safe. You're protected by a thick, resilient skin, and inside you are soft, fluid, and healing. From the dry sea of sand, we are transported instantly to the true sea, plunging beneath the surface of the ocean to float in a forest of kelp. The water is cold and invigorating, but here you are weightless. You do not need to support your own body. The ocean holds you completely. Towering around you are giant stalks of kelp, rising from the shadowy depths all the way to the glistening surface far above. They are the redwoods of the ocean, golden brown and translucent, undulating with the rhythm of the tides. Watch how the kelp moves. It is a hypnotic, synchronized dance. When the current pushes left, the entire forest sways left. When the current pulls right, they all bow to the right. There is no resistance here, only flow. Sunlight filters down from the surface in shifting beams, sometimes referred to as God rays, illuminating the amber blades of the kelp. The light dances and flickers, creating a mesmerizing pattern on the sandy floor below. It is a silent world. The noise of the surface, the wind, the waves, the ships, is muffled into a deep rhythmic hum. Imagine wrapping yourself in one of these giant fronds. It is slick and smooth, feeling like cool silk against your skin. It anchors you. You're floating, suspended in the blue-green twilight, rocking gently back and forth, back and forth. The motion of the ocean matches the motion of your breath. In and out, ebb and flow. The kelp forest is a nursery for life, a hiding place, a sanctuary. Nothing can find you here. You're hidden in the swaying amber shadows, drifting in a suspension of perfect liquid peace, held by the ancient salt water that is the cradle of all life. We rise slowly from the depths, breaking the surface to find ourselves in a wide green meadow under a soft blue sky. Dotted across the grass are the white spherical clocks of the dandelion in seed. We often overlook this plant, but in this moment, it is a thing of delicate, intricate engineering. Visualize the perfect globe of white fluff. Each tiny seed is attached to a parachute of fine, silky hairs, arranged in a geometric starburst. They are poised, waiting for the breath of the wind. Imagine holding one of these fragile spheres in your hand. You bring it close to your lips. You take a deep breath, filling your lungs with the sweet air of the meadow, and you exhale gently. Whoosh! The sphere explodes into a cloud of tiny stars. Watch them drift. They are lighter than air, catching the slightest breeze, floating upward and outward. They have no destination. They are not worried about where they will land. They simply trust the wind to carry them. There is a profound freedom in this drifting. It is the feeling of releasing a wish. As you watch the seeds float away, becoming smaller and smaller until they disappear into the blue, imagine that each seed carries a worry or a tension from your body. You blow them away, and they are gone, carried off by the vast, indifferent sky. You are light. You are unburdened. You're empty of stress. Just a clear, open space where the wind blows softly. the dandelion teaches us that the end of one cycle is simply the beginning of another, and that the most natural way to travel is to simply let yourself be carried. As the last dandelion seed disappears, the sky deepens into a rich, velvety indigo. The sun has set, and the stars are beginning to puncture the darkness. In a secret corner of a garden, a mysterious transformation is taking place. We are in the presence of the moonflower, or the night-blooming cereus. This is a plant that shuns the day. It saves its beauty entirely for the night. All day long, it looks like a tangle of dry, unassuming stems. But as the moon rises, the buds begin to tremble. Watch closely in the silver moonlight. The petals, pure white and luminous, begin to separate. It is a slow, ghostly unfurling. The flower opens wide like a trumpet heralding the silence of the night. It glows with an internal bioluminescence, reflecting the moonlight so strongly that it seems to be made of starlight itself. And then the scent arrives. It is a heavy, intoxicating perfume of vanilla and musk, stronger than any daytime flower, designed to call out to the moths across the miles of darkness. This beauty is private. It is quiet. It is not performing for the crowds of the day. It is blooming for the silence. There is a comfort in the idea of the night self. While the world sleeps, nature is still creating beauty. Imagine you are sitting in this moonlit garden, inhaling the rare, sweet perfume. The white flowers look like floating lanterns in the dark. They remind you that the night is not a void. It is a canvas for a different kind of magic, softer, slower, and more mysterious. You're safe here in the shadows, watched over by these white guardians that keep vigil while you sleep. The scent of the moonflower fades as we drift toward the sound of water, a slow, meandering river that reflects the stars. Bending over the water's edge is the majestic weeping willow. Its form is the physical embodiment of relaxation. The branches do not reach up in defiance, they cascade down in surrender. Thousands of long, slender switches hang like green curtains, sweeping the surface of the river. Step beneath the canopy of the willow. It is like entering a tent made of living leaves. The outside world is obscured by the veil of green. Inside, the light is dim and filtered. You're enclosed in a private bubble of solitude. Listen to the sound of the wind moving through the hanging branches, a soft, dry whispering, like the rustling of a taffeta dress. The tips of the branches dip into the river, creating tiny ripples that spread out and vanish. The willow loves water. It drinks deeply, its roots seeking the river, pulling moisture up to the very tips of its leaves. It is pliable and strong. If a storm comes, the willow branches swing and flow with the gale. They do not snap. To rest under a willow is to be hidden from the eyes of the world. Imagine lying on the soft grass at the base of the trunk, looking up into the dome of hanging leaves. You are protected. You're veiled. The curtain has been drawn around you, separating you from the demands of the day, leaving you in a green, hushed twilight, where the only thing that matters is the sound of the water flowing by. As we rest by the river, the air grows crisp and cold. The green of the willow fades into a world of white. We have entered the deep winter, standing in a forest of pine and spruce. Snow has fallen thick and heavy, blanketing the world in silence. Snow absorbs sound, and the forest is quieter than any cathedral. The trees stand tall, their dark green needles contrasting sharply with the pristine white snow. They are the survivors. They do not sleep in winter. They endure, wrapped in their coats of resin and wax. Look at a single pine branch, heavy with a mound of snow. It bends under the weight, a graceful arch of white and green. The needles are bundled together, tough and hardy. Brush against the branch, and a cloud of fine snow dusts the air, releasing the scent of pine. It is a sharp, clean smell, terpenes and wood, that clears the sinuses and wakes up the senses in a pleasant, grounding way. It smells of holidays, of warmth amidst the cold, of firelight and safety. The pine tree produces a thick, sticky resin. This sap is the lifeblood of the tree, sealing wounds, protecting it from the freezing cold. Imagine this resin as a golden, warm energy flowing through the core of the tree, keeping it alive even when the world is frozen. You too have this inner warmth. No matter how cold the world outside becomes, deep within, there is a fire that does not go out. Wrap yourself in the imaginary silence of the snowy forest. The heavy blankets of snow on the trees are like heavy blankets on your bed, weighty, comforting, pressing you down into a deep, warm hibernation. The winter slowly melts away, the snow turning to water that feeds the earth, and suddenly, the world bursts into the soft pastel glory of spring. We find ourselves walking down an avenue lined with cherry blossoms. It is the peak of their bloom. The trees are no longer wood and bark, they're clouds of pink and white hovering above the ground. The air is filled with a subtle, almond-like sweetness. It is a scene of overwhelming gentleness. A breeze stirs the branches and a shower of petals begins to fall. It is a pink snowstorm. The petals are soft as silk, cool and weightless. They flutter down, catching in your hair, brushing against your cheek like a lover's touch, landing softly on your shoulders. The ground becomes a carpet of pink confetti. This is the beauty of the ephemeral. The knowledge that this moment is fleeting makes it all the more precious. The cherry blossom does not struggle. It blooms with total abandon, and then it lets go. It offers its beauty to the wind without hesitation. Imagine walking through this shower of petals. The visual field is filled with soft pink light. It softens the gaze. It softens the heart. There are no hard edges here, only curves and clusters of flowers. Breathe in the spring air, full of promise and renewal. Let the petals drift around you, burying you in softness, reminding you that life is a series of beautiful moments, and right now, this moment of rest is the only one that matters. Leaving the pink avenue, we enter a small enclosed herb garden, warmed by the afternoon sun. The air here is different, spicy, fresh, and awakening to the skin. We're standing amidst a patch of mint. The leaves are vibrant green, textured with deep veins and jagged edges. They grow with a wild enthusiasm, spreading their runners through the soil, claiming the space. Reach out in your mind and rub a mint leaf between your thumb and forefinger. The friction breaks the tiny oil glands on the surface. Immediately the air is filled with the scent of menthol. It is a scent that feels like a cold breeze in the nostrils. It travels straight to the brain, cutting through the fog of fatigue. It is clean. It is clarifying. But alongside the scent, there is a sensation. If you were to touch the leaf to your skin, it would feel cool. This cooling sensation is nature's anesthesia. It calms the heat of the skin. It soothes the heat of the mind. Imagine a wave of this cool, minty freshness washing over you. It starts at your forehead, smoothing out the furrowed lines of concentration. It washes down your neck, cooling the tension in your shoulders. It is like a splash of cold mountain water on a hot day. It cleanses the palate of your mind, washing away the stale taste of old conversations and worries, leaving you fresh, empty and cool, ready to sink into a clean white sleep. Finally, we seek the ultimate shelter. We travel to the tropical warmth to stand beneath the banyan tree. This is not just a tree, it is a fortress. The banyan drops roots from its branches, long woody ropes that descend through the air until they touch the earth and thicken into new trunks. Over time, a single tree becomes a forest, a labyrinth of pillars supporting a massive, spreading roof of green. Walk into the shade of the banyan. The temperature drops. The sunlight is blocked by the layers of thick, glossy leaves above. It is a room built by nature. The multiple trunks create nooks and crannies, hidden spaces where one could sit and rest for eternity. It is said that the banyan is the tree of immortality, for it constantly renews itself, expanding outward, never truly dying, just becoming wider and more stable. Feel the sense of enclosure. You're not exposed here. You're surrounded by the strength of 100 trunks, all part of one living being. It feels like a sanctuary, a temple without walls. The ground is dry and dusty, protected from the rain. The air is still. You can lean against one of the pillars and feel the hum of life that has been growing for centuries. This is the architecture of peace. It is a space large enough to hold all your dreams, yet secure enough to keep out all your fears. Curl up at the base of the central trunk in the heart of the living room and let the massive spreading canopy stand guard over your rest. A green umbrella shielding you from the sky, keeping you safe, keeping you hidden, keeping you deeply, deeply asleep. Deep within the safe shadowed enclosure of the banyan tree, where the air is thick with the scent of earth and time, our gaze travels upward. We follow the intricate wooden lattice of the trunks toward the canopy, where the sunlight filters through in dappled shards. High up in these branches, nestled in the crook of a heavy limb, sits a bromeliad. This plant is a marvel of self-sufficiency, an aerial aqueduct that creates its own ecosystem in the sky. It does not need to touch the ground to survive. It draws everything it needs from the air and the rain. Visualize the shape of the bromeliad. Its leaves are stiff and waxy, spiraling outward from a central point to form a perfect watertight cup. This is the tank. When it rains, this cup fills with pure, fresh water, creating a private suspended lake high above the forest floor. Imagine shrinking down and floating on the surface of this tiny high-altitude pond. The water is cool and incredibly still, protected from the wind by the high walls of the green leaves. It is a sanctuary within a sanctuary. Tiny, colourful frogs often come to sleep in these pools, safe from predators, cradled in the hydration of the plant. The bromeliad teaches us the art of receiving. It simply opens itself to the sky and accepts what is given, holding it precious, holding it safe. It does not strive for water, it becomes a vessel for it. As you lie there, imagine your own mind as that open vessel, catching the clear, cool rain of tranquility, holding a reservoir of peace that remains still and undisturbed, no matter what is happening in the forest below. Drifting from the high branches of the banyan, we catch a scent on the breeze, something warm, sweet, and deeply familiar. It pulls us gently toward a climbing vine, a member of the orchid family that has wound its way up a nearby trunk. This is the vanilla orchid. We often know it only as a flavour, but here, in the wild, it is a creature of patience and intricate beauty. The flower itself is yellowish green, opening for only a single day, a fleeting moment of perfection that demands presence. But the true magic lies in the pod. Picture the long, slender green bean hanging from the vine. It must remain there for 9 long months, slowly maturing, slowly darkening. It is a gestation of sweetness. Once harvested, it undergoes a curing process, drying in the sun until it turns a deep, rich black, and the skin becomes wrinkled and leathery. It is only then that the crystals of vanillin begin to form on the surface like microscopic frost, releasing that iconic aroma. Breathe in the memory of that scent. It is the smell of comfort, of baking, of warmth, of home. It bypasses the logical brain and goes straight to the emotional center, wrapping you in a blanket of nostalgia. The vanilla orchid teaches us that the sweetest things in life cannot be rushed. They require time, darkness, and transformation. Let the imaginary scent fill your lungs, heavy and relaxing, sweetening your dreams and softening the edges of your thoughts, like sugar dissolving in warm milk. Following the vine downwards, we leave the tropical humidity and find ourselves in a grand southern garden, shaded by the glossy dark leaves of the magnolia tree. This is a tree of prehistoric elegance, a survivor that bloomed before bees even existed, relying on beetles for pollination. The leaves are thick and leathery, a deep, lustrous green on top and a fuzzy, rusty brown underneath. They are durable, feeling almost like plastic or heavy fabric in your hand, shielding the tree from the elements. but it is the flower that commands our attention. Visualize a bloom the size of a dinner plate, composed of thick, creamy white petals. They look as though they have been sculpted from wax or carved from ivory. There is nothing fragile about a magnolia blossom. It is heavy, substantial, and opulent. When the flower opens, it releases a fragrance that is lemony, fresh, and overwhelmingly heady. A perfume that hangs thick in the humid air of a summer evening. Watch, in your mind's eye, as a single petal detaches. Because of its weight, it does not flutter like the autumn leaf. It falls with a soft, audible thud onto the grass. It is a sound of finality and rest. The magnolia represents stability and dignity. It stands tall, its roots deep, its flowers offering a heavy, grounded beauty. Imagine touching the petal. It is cool, smooth, and slightly damp. It feels solid against your skin. Allow the weight of the magnolia petal to rest upon your eyelids, pressing them gently down, sealing them shut with the heavy, waxy promise of sleep. From the solitary grandeur of the magnolia, we drift to a structure covered in a cascading river of colour. We're standing beneath a pergola draped in wisteria. This is a plant of abundance, of overwhelming flow. The woody vines twist and braid around the support beams, strong and muscular, possessing the strength to crush timber over time. Yet, from this immense strength hangs the most delicate, ephemeral beauty. Thousands of pea-like flowers hang in long, drooping clusters, like grapes made of purple light. They create a ceiling of violet and lavender, swaying gently in the breeze. Walking beneath them is like walking through a tunnel of colour and scent. The smell is sweet and musky, a drowsy fragrance that attracts slow-moving bees. The visual repetition of the hanging clusters is hypnotic, row after row of purple rain that never hits the ground. To sit under a wisteria vine is to be curtained off from the sky. The light that filters through is tinted purple, soft and dreamlike. The plant covers everything it touches, softening sharp edges, blurring the lines of architecture, reclaiming the world for nature. It feels like a hug, a heavy, draped embrace. Let your mind wander through this purple tunnel. There is no end in sight, just more and more soft hanging flowers brushing against your face, lulling you into a trance with their sheer repetitive beauty. We emerge from the tunnel of wisteria into a vast flat field under a bright white sun. The ground is hidden beneath a sea of cotton. Before the harvest, the cotton field is a landscape of pure texture. The sharp, protective husks, the bolls, have burst open, revealing the cloud-like fibres inside. It looks as though the clouds have fallen from the sky and been caught on the stems of the plants. Reach out and touch a bowl of raw cotton. It is warm from the sun. It is the definition of softness, yet it is dry and airy. There is no moisture here, only fluff. It is the material that has cradled humanity for centuries, the fabric of our sheets, our clothes, our comfort. The field absorbs sound. Just as snow silences the forest, the cotton dampens the noise of the open plain. It is a muffled, quiet place. Imagine expanding this feeling. Imagine that the bed you're lying in is rising up to meet you, becoming a field of raw cotton. You sink into it. It conforms to your shape, supporting every joint, every muscle, with a soft, yielding resistance. You're floating in the fibre of the earth. It is white, clean, and endlessly soft. There is no hard surface anywhere, only layers and layers of billowy comfort, wrapping you in a cocoon of silence and warmth. The white of the cotton fades into the silver green of an ancient grove on a Mediterranean hillside. We stand before the twisted, gnarled trunk of an olive tree. This tree is the elder of the landscape. Its trunk is not smooth. It is a map of history, full of hollows, knots, and spirals where the wood has turned over centuries of slow growth. Some olive trees are thousands of years old, still bearing fruit, still standing against the dry, hot wind. The leaves of the olive tree are small and lance-shaped. On the top they are a dusty green, On the bottom, they are silver. When the wind blows, the tree shimmers. It looks like a school of fish changing direction, a rippling wave of silver and green light. This constant shimmering motion is soothing to the eye, like watching flames in a fire or waves on the ocean. The olive tree is the universal symbol of peace, and standing beneath it, you can understand why. It demands nothing. It grows in poor, rocky soil where other plants would fail. It gives oil, liquid gold, that heals, nourishes, and lights the lamps of the old world. It is a giver of light and sustenance. Lean against the twisted trunk. It feels like stone, warm and solid. It anchors you to the earth. The olive tree whispers that you have time, you have endurance, you can weather the dry seasons and still produce fruit. Rest in the shade of its silver canopy, feeling the ancient oily richness of the earth feeding your spirit. Leaving the dry heat of the olive grove, we travel to a misty mountain range where the air turns blue and hazy. We are in a forest of eucalyptus. The blue hue of the distance comes from the microscopic droplets of oil released by the leaves, creating a natural smog that scatters the light. The scent here is powerful, medicinal, sharp and clearing. It opens the lungs. It is the smell of clean breath. Look at the bark of the eucalyptus. It does not stay put. It peels away in long, colourful strips, greys, creams and rusty reds, revealing the smooth, fresh wood beneath. The tree is constantly shedding its old skin, letting go of the past to make room for the new growth. It is a visible act of renewal. The strips of bark hang loosely from the trunk, rustling in the wind, creating a soft, dry percussion. Breathe in the vapour of the forest. Feel the menthol sensation cooling your throat and chest. It feels as though the air itself is washing you from the inside out. The eucalyptus stands tall and straight, piercing the mist, unaffected by the pests that plague other trees, protected by its own potent oil. It is a sanctuary of health. Let the blue mist wrap around you, dissolving any congestion, any tightness, leaving you with a sensation of cool, open spaciousness in your chest, allowing your breath to become deep, slow, and rhythmic. From the height of the mountains, we drift down to the surface of a dark, still river in the Amazon basin. Spreading out across the water are the colossal leaves of the Victoria amazonica, the giant water lily. These are not ordinary leaves. They are massive green platters, growing up to 3 meters across, with a distinct upturned rim that pushes the water away. They are architectural marvels, ribbed with air-filled veins on the underside that provide incredible buoyancy. Imagine stepping off the riverbank and onto one of these giant leaves. It holds you. It is a raft provided by nature. You can curl up in the centre of the green circle, floating on the surface of the river, perfectly dry. The rim of the leaf acts like the bumper of a crib, keeping the water out, creating a dry, safe island in the middle of the deep current. The water lily is rooted in the mud far below, but it lives its life in the sun. It connects the depths to the light. As you float on this giant leaf, you can feel the gentle movement of the river beneath you, a rocking motion that is slow and unpredictable. You're drifting downstream, carried by a force greater than yourself, supported by a structure that is perfectly designed to keep you afloat. There is no effort required. The leaf does the work, the river does the work. You simply lie back and watch the canopy pass by overhead. As the river widens, the banks become lined with tall, slender stalks of papyrus. We have reached the marshlands of the delta. The papyrus is a triangular reed, rising straight out of the shallow water, topped with a firework burst of thin green threads. It is the plant of communication, the raw material of the first paper, the keeper of history. But before it was a scroll, it was a reed, swaying in the wind. The sound of the wind in a papyrus grove is a dry, rhythmic shh. It is the sound of a librarian hushing a room. It is the sound of silence being enforced by nature. The reeds are flexible. They do not break in the wind, but bow deeply, sweeping the surface of the water with their tufted heads. They grow in dense clumps, protecting the water birds that hide within their shadows. Visualize the texture of the paper made from this plant, rough, fibrous, and warm. Now visualize the plant itself, green and alive. It filters the water, cleaning the river as it flows through the dense root systems. It is a purifier. Imagine your thoughts are flowing through a grove of papyrus. As they pass through the reeds, the chaotic, muddy thoughts are filtered out, caught by the roots, and only the clear, clean water of your mind flows through to the other side. The shh of the reeds quiets your internal monologue, turning the page on the day, leaving a blank, clean scroll ready for the stories of your dreams. Finally, we travel to the high, dry plains of the desert night to visit the agave. This is a plant of monumental patience. It grows slowly, forming a rosette of thick, spiky, blue-green leaves that store water for decades. It sits in the silence of the desert, waiting. It waits for 10, 20, sometimes 50 years for its moment of glory. It gathers energy, year after year, saving every drop of rain, every ray of sun, concentrating its life force into a single purpose. And then, when the time is right, it blooms. It sends up a stalk that can grow immensely tall in a matter of days, branching out into yellow flowers that feed the bats of the night. It gives everything it has in one spectacular display of life. But for tonight, visualize the agave in its waiting phase. It is the embodiment of potential energy at rest. It is not in a hurry. It knows its time will come, and it is content to sit under the stars and simply be. The agave teaches us that we do not need to be constantly blooming. We do not need to be constantly productive. There are seasons of life and seasons of the day for gathering, for resting, for storing strength. Sleep is your time to be the agave. It is your time to go inward, to store your energy, to be thick-skinned and resilient, holding your life force safe within your core. The desert is quiet around you. The stars are bright and cold. You are grounded, heavy, and full of quiet power, waiting patiently in the dark, perfectly at peace with the stillness of the long, slow night. From the silent, waiting presence of the agave, we lift our gaze from the desert floor, allowing our eyes to travel upward against the backdrop of the starlit sky. Rising like a sentinel from the dry earth is the saguaro cactus. If the agave is the patience of the ground, the saguaro is the watcher of the horizon. It stands tall, a ribbed column of green water, sometimes reaching 50 feet into the air, its arms raised in a permanent gesture of greeting, or perhaps a silent benediction over the landscape. This is the definition of standing tall. Visualize the skin of the saguaro. It is pleated like an accordion. This is a design of profound intelligence. When the rare desert rains finally arrive, the saguaro does not resist the abundance. It expands. The pleats unfold, allowing the cactus to swell and absorb tons of water, holding it safe within its fleshy interior. It becomes heavy with life. Imagine that you are the saguaro. As you inhale, your ribs expand gently, just like the pleats of the cactus, creating space. As you exhale, you settle back into your core, solid and immovable. The saguaro is not just a plant, it is a hotel for the desert. Woodpeckers and owls carve small, cool caves into its flesh, finding sanctuary from the heat within its water-filled body. The cactus heals these wounds by creating a hard, woody scar tissue called a boot, sealing the nest and protecting the bird. It offers shelter without complaint. It stands for centuries watching the sun rise and set, holding its water, holding its guests, holding its ground. Feel that solidity in your own spine now, a pillar of strength that supports you effortlessly, allowing you to remain upright and dignified even as you drift into the softness of sleep. Leaving the dry heat of the low desert, we travel on the wings of a cloud, rising higher and higher until the air turns cool and damp. We find ourselves on a misty mountainside in Asia, surrounded by the emerald rose of the tea plant, Camellia sinensis. The air here is thick with fog, creating a soft, diffused light that makes the world feel like a watercolour painting. Everything is green, wet, and incredibly quiet. Consider the journey of a tea leaf. It begins on the bush, vibrant and alive. Then it is harvested and dried, curled into a tight, dark knot. It holds its potential energy in a state of suspended animation. Now visualize that dried leaf dropped into a cup of warm water. This is the process of steeping. Watch closely in your mind's eye as the leaf reacts to the warmth. It begins to unfurl, the tight knot relaxes, the leaf expands, stretching out, reclaiming its original shape, releasing its essence into the water. This unfurling is exactly what your muscles are doing right now. Just as the hot water encourages the leaf to let go of its tightness, the warmth of your bed encourages your body to release its tension. The flavour of the tea, the soul of the plant, can only be released when the leaf relaxes. You're steeping in the warmth of the covers. You're unfurling. The tightness of the day is dissolving, turning into a cloud of flavour and scent that drifts away, leaving you soft, open, and restored. The tea plant teaches us that relaxation is a return to our true form, a gentle expansion into the space we are meant to occupy. From the misty mountains, we follow the scent of the tea down into a warm enclosed garden at dusk. The sun has just dipped below the horizon and the air is turning blue. Suddenly a fragrance hits you, sweet, heavy, and intoxicating. It is the awakening of the jasmine. This climbing vine is a creature of the twilight. Its small, star-shaped white flowers are modest during the day, often closing up to protect their precious oils from the harsh sun. But as the light fades, they open wide. Jasmine is known as the queen of the night. Its scent is chemically composed to soothe the nervous system, a natural lullaby carried on the breeze. Visualize the vine wrapping itself around a trellis or a garden wall. It does not stand alone. It embraces. It clings gently but firmly, covering the hard stone with a curtain of soft green leaves and white stars. The scent is invisible, yet it has a physical presence. It feels thick, almost like a mist you can walk through. Breathing in the scent of jasmine signals the brain that it is time to wind down. It is a scent of intimacy and calm. Imagine the small white flowers glowing in the semi-darkness, like constellations brought down to earth. They are breathing their perfume into the night air just for you. Allow this heavy floral sweetness to weigh down your limbs. It is a blanket of scent. It wraps around you like the vine wraps around the stone, holding you in a sweet, fragrant embrace that blocks out the rest of the world and invites deep, heavy slumber. We drift from the garden wall to the edge of the land, where the earth meets the sea. Here, in the tidal zones, stands the mangrove. This is a tree that lives in two worlds, the world of air and the world of water. Its roots are not buried deep underground like the oak. Instead, they arch out from the trunk like the legs of a giant spider, plunging into the salt water. These prop roots hold the tree up above the shifting tides, creating a tangled, beautiful labyrinth of wood and water. The mangrove is a master of filtration. It drinks the salt water, but it has a special internal system to filter out the salt, excreting it through its leaves or blocking it at the roots so that it drinks only fresh water. It finds purity in the midst of the chaotic ocean. Imagine sitting amongst these roots. The water laps gently against the wood, slap, 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 a rhythmic, hypnotic sound. The tangled roots create a nursery for young fish, a safe haven where the big predators cannot reach. This is a place of transition, a liminal space between the solid land of wakefulness and the fluid ocean of sleep. The mangrove stands comfortable in both. It teaches you that you can be stable even when the emotional tides are shifting around you. You have your own prop roots, your breath, your bed, this moment. They hold you up above the waves. You're safe in the tangle of the roots, watching the water flow past, filtering out what you don't need and drinking in only the fresh, clean peace of the moment. The tide recedes, leaving us on the firm forest floor of an ancient pine forest. Lying amidst the needles is a perfect example of sacred geometry, the pine cone. We often kick them aside, but pick one up in your mind and look at it closely. The scales are arranged in a perfect spiral, a Fibonacci sequence that draws the eye round and round towards the centre. It is a mandala made of wood. The pine cone is not just a seed carrier, it is a weather station. When the air is dry, the scales open up, spreading wide to release the seeds to the wind. But when the air is damp and humid, the scales swell and clamp shut tightly, protecting the seeds inside from rotting. It is a slow, mechanical response to the environment that requires no energy, only the physics of the wood. Visualize the scales of the pine cone closing up. Snap, snap, snap. One by one, they overlap, creating a smooth, armoured shell. This is what you're doing as you prepare for sleep. You're closing your scales. You're pulling your energy back in, layering your protections, shutting out the external environment to protect the seed of your consciousness inside. You're becoming smooth, self-contained, and impenetrable. The damp, cool air of the night surrounds you, and like the pine cone, you respond by turning inward, locking down into a state of perfect geometric rest. Softening our gaze from the hardwood of the pine cone, we look to the ground cover at our feet. There, growing in a low spreading mat, is the plant known as lamb's ear. The name tells you exactly what to expect. Reaching down, you touch a leaf. It is thick, fleshy, and covered in a dense coat of silver-white fur. It feels exactly like the ear of a lamb, velvety, soft, and warm. This plant is purely tactile. It is a sensory anchor. The leaves are a pale, dusty green, looking almost frosted because of the fine hairs. These hairs are not just for show. They trap moisture and create a layer of still air right against the surface of the leaf, keeping it cool in summer and warm in winter. It creates its own microclimate of comfort. Imagine that your bedsheets are made of these leaves. Imagine rubbing your cheek against that impossible softness. It is a texture that invites you to nuzzle in, to curl up. The lamb's ear does not strive for height. It hugs the ground. It covers the hard earth with a carpet of wool. It reminds us of the healing power of softness. In a world of hard screens and hard surfaces, this plant offers a gentle touch. Let that sensation of velvet fur stroke your mind, smoothing away the sharp edges of your thoughts, leaving everything fuzzy, soft, and silver. From the low ground, we look up to see a tree that has seen the dinosaurs rise and fall. It is the ginkgo biloba, the living fossil. Its leaves are unique in the plant kingdom, shaped like small green fans with veins that radiate out from the stem rather than branching. In the autumn, these trees perform a miracle of colour. They turn a uniform, luminous gold, not orange, not brown, but a bright, shocking yellow, and then they drop their leaves. But unlike the maple or the oak that lose leaves over weeks, the ginkgo often drops all its leaves in a single day. One moment, the tree is a cloud of gold. The next, the tree is bare, and a pool of gold lies at its feet. It is a decisive, synchronized release. The ginkgo is also a symbol of profound resilience. It is the only species of its kind left with no living relatives. It can survive pollution, cramped city streets, and was even the first thing to grow back after the devastation of Hiroshima. It carries a deep genetic memory of survival. Lean against the trunk of the ginkgo. Feel the ancient life force that has persisted for 270 million years. It tells you that you are stronger than you know. You can survive the seasons. You can let go of your golden burdens all at once and stand bare and clean, ready to rest, ready to endure, ready to begin again. We travel now to the vast open savannas of Africa to stand in the shadow of the baobab. This is the tree of life. It looks like it has been planted upside down, its gnarled, root-like branches sticking up into the sky. The trunk is massive, cylindrical and smooth, shining with a pinkish-grey hue in the sunset. It is not just wood, it is a water tower. The trunk is fibrous and spongy, capable of swelling to store thousands of litres of rainwater to survive the dry season. The baobab is a community centre. Elephants tear at its bark to chew the moist wood. Birds nest in its hollows. Humans gather in its shade. Old baobabs often become hollow in the centre as they age, creating a natural room inside the tree large enough for people to stand in. Imagine stepping inside the trunk of a giant baobab. It is cool, dark, and smells of wet wood and earth. You're standing inside a living reservoir. There is a sense of immense, heavy protection here. The tree is a guardian of water, the source of life. It stands immovable on the plains, a giant silo of resources. Feel that capacity within yourself. You have deep reserves. You have stored up energy and resilience that you aren't even using yet. You are full. You are heavy. You're a giant on the plain, resting in the knowledge that you have everything you need inside you to survive the night and thrive in the morning. We move from the bark of the savanna giant to a different kind of bark, one that warms the soul. We find ourselves in a lush tropical grove in Sri Lanka, standing before the cinnamon tree. We know cinnamon as a powder in a jar, but here it is the inner skin of the tree. To harvest it, the outer bark is scraped away, revealing the delicate, fragrant inner layer. As this layer dries, it naturally curls into the tight, scroll-like quills we recognize. The scent of cinnamon is the scent of inner warmth. It stimulates blood flow. It mimics the feeling of a hug. It is a heating plant. Visualize the rich, red-brown color of the spice. Imagine a warm glow spreading through your chest, radiating outward to your fingertips and toes. It is the feeling of sitting by a fire while a storm rages outside. Cinnamon is also a protector. Its oils are powerful antimicrobials, shielding the tree from disease. It defends itself with sweetness and spice. Let the imaginary scent fill the room: wood, spice, and sugar. It is a grounding scent, pulling you out of the airy realms of anxiety and back into the warm physical comfort of your body. You're wrapped in a quill of safety, curled up tight like the drying bark, warm, fragrant, and perfectly at ease. Finally, we lower our gaze to the very bottom of the forest floor, pushing aside the fallen leaves to find something hidden and precious. Here, in the shadows, grows the sweet violet. It is a modest flower, often bowing its purple head so low that it touches the ground. It does not shout for attention. It hides its beauty under heart-shaped leaves, requiring you to seek it out. The scent of the violet is legendary for a specific reason. It is a ghost. The flower contains a compound called ionone, which temporarily desensitizes the receptors in your nose. You smell the sweet, powdery fragrance for a moment, and then it vanishes, only to return a minute later. It is a scent that flirts with your senses, coming and going like a dream. Focus on the colour, a deep, rich purple that verges on blue. It is the colour of the third eye, the colour of twilight, the colour of the deepest part of the ocean. The violet teaches the virtue of humility and the power of the hidden. You do not need to be seen to be whole. You do not need to be loud to be worthy. You can curl up under your own leaves, hidden from the world, smelling sweet and feeling safe in the low, quiet places of the earth. The violet invites you to disappear into the undergrowth, to become small, to become hidden, and to let the world carry on above you while you rest in the fragrant shadows. From the secret, shadowed world of the violet, we remain low to the earth, crawling gently in our consciousness to the edge of a tropical path where the sensitive ferns grow. Here, we encounter the mimosa pudica, often whispered of as the sleeping grass, or the shy plant. It is a small, unassuming shrub with delicate fern-like fronds, but it possesses a reflex that is almost animal in its nature. It is the plant that feels. Visualize reaching out with a single finger to touch one of its green leaflets. The moment your skin makes contact, a wave of reaction sweeps through the plant. Instantly, the tiny leaflets fold inward, collapsing against the stem like a pair of hands closing in prayer. It is a domino effect of relaxation. One leaflet closes, then the next, and the next, running down the length of the branch in a cascading ripple of green. The entire branch then droops downward, bowing toward the earth, making itself small, making itself disappear. This movement is caused by a rapid release of water pressure within the cells of the plant. It physically lets go of the water that holds it rigid, and in doing so, it finds safety. It teaches us that the correct response to being overwhelmed is to fold inward, to protect your center, and to drop your defenses by softening. Imagine your own body possessing this wisdom. Imagine that as the bed touches your back, your muscles respond like the mimosa. They fold, they soften, they release the hydraulic pressure of the day and simply droop into a state of heavy protected rest. You are closing up shop. You're turning away from the world outside to tend to the quiet world within. Leaving the shy mimosa to its slumber, we rise slowly, growing taller, transforming into the slender, ghostly elegance of a silver birch forest. These are the ladies of the woods. The visual experience of a birch forest is one of high contrast and light. The trunks are not brown, but a stark, luminous white, peeling away in thin, papery layers. The bark is marked with horizontal black lenticels, lines that look like eyes watching over the forest, or ancient script written on parchment. Focus on the texture of this bark. It is smooth and cool, but in places it curls back like scrolling paper, revealing fresh, pinkish orange wood beneath. This peeling is a natural exfoliation, a constant shedding of the old skin to allow the tree to breathe. The birch does not hold on to its past years, it wears them loosely, letting them flake away in the wind. The canopy above is light and airy, allowing dappled sun to reach the floor. The leaves are small and triangular, fluttering on long stalks. Because the leaves are so light, the birch forest sounds different than the heavy pine forest. It does not roar, it whispers. It is a dry, high-pitched rustling, like the sound of turning pages in a library. It is a sound of white noise, static and calm. Lean your forehead against the cool white trunk. Feel the paper-thin bark against your skin. The birch stands as a beacon of light in the dark woods, a reminder of clarity and purification. It invites you to shed your own layers, the paper-thin worries that are ready to peel away, leaving you fresh, white, and clean for the night. The white of the birch bark slowly shifts, warming into the creamy white petals of the chamomile flower. We are now in a sun-drenched herb garden, low to the ground, surrounded by thousands of these tiny daisy-like blooms. The name chamomile comes from the Greek for ground apple, and as a gentle breeze stirs the patch, you can smell exactly why. A sweet, fruity fragrance wafts up, scent of apples, straw, and honey. It is the quintessential scent of soothing. Visualize the center of the flower. It is a raised yellow cone packed with pollen surrounded by a skirt of white petals that droop slightly downward, as if the flower is relaxing its shoulders. These plants are tiny suns. They love the light, absorbing the solar energy all day long to store it in their essential oils. When you steep chamomile in hot water, you are releasing that stored sunshine. Imagine you are lying in the middle of this chamomile bed. The flowers are soft beneath you, a mattress of yellow and white. The scent is heavy and sweet, coating the back of your throat with the taste of relaxation. Chamomile is a gentle sedative. It has been lulling humans to sleep for centuries. It does not force, it suggests. It whispers to the nervous system that the danger has passed. Let the imaginary aroma of warm apple and honey fill your room. It is a golden, liquid sensation that starts in your stomach and spreads to your limbs, making them heavy, making them warm, making them ready to sink. From the soft flower we harden our focus, condensing our energy into the smooth, polished form of an acorn. We are standing beneath the spreading canopy of a mighty oak. The ground is scattered with these small, perfect seeds. Pick one up in your mind. Feel the contrast in textures. The nut itself is sleek, cool, and hard, polished to a shine by the dry autumn air. The cap is rough, textured with tiny woody scales, fitting over the nut like a beret. The acorn is a miracle of compression. Inside this tiny hard shell sits the entire blueprint for a massive tree. Roots, trunk, branches, leaves, it is all there, folded up, waiting for the right moment. But for now, it is dormant. It is safe inside its armour. The oak tree produces thousands of acorns, trusting that even if most are lost, life will continue. It is a symbol of abundance and potential energy at rest. Rub your thumb over the smooth surface of the acorn. It feels solid. It feels dense. There is a specific comfort in small, heavy things. They ground us. Imagine you're holding this seed of potential in your hand, or perhaps carrying it in your pocket. It is a talisman of patience. You do not need to be a tree right now. You can just be the acorn. You can be small, self-contained, and protected by a hard shell, waiting comfortably in the dark soil of sleep until it is time to grow again. We cast the acorn into a stream, and it floats away, carried by the water down to the sea, where we sink beneath the waves to discover the underwater meadows of seagrass, specifically Posidonia, or Neptune's grass. Unlike the kelp we visited earlier, which towers like trees, seagrass forms a lush green carpet across the sandy floor of the ocean. It is a true flowering plant that has returned to the sea. The water here is shallow, clear and turquoise. The sunlight ripples across the bottom in nets of gold. The blades of grass are long, flat and bright green, streaming upward toward the surface. Watch the movement. It is a synchronized swaying. As the tide pushes in, the entire meadow bows flat against the sand. As the tide pulls out, the meadow stands up and leans the other way. It is the rhythmic breathing of the ocean floor. Seagrass meadows are the lungs of the sea, producing massive amounts of oxygen, bubbling up in tiny silver pearls from the leaves. They also trap sediment, making the water crystal clear. Imagine lying down in this underwater field. The water supports you completely. The grass tickles your arms and legs, soft and slick. You're being brushed by the currents, back and forth, back and forth. There is no resistance, only the endless rocking cradle of the tide. You are breathing with the ocean, inhaling the blue, exhaling the stress, floating in the clearest, calmest water imaginable. The currents carry us to a tropical shore, and we move inland to the deep, humid shade of the rainforest understory to find the cacao tree. This tree behaves strangely. It is a cauliflorous plant, meaning its flowers and fruit grow directly from the thick, woody trunk, rather than from the tips of the branches. Visualize the pods hanging heavy from the bark. They're shaped like elongated footballs, textured with deep ridges, and coloured in vibrant shades of yellow, orange and purple. Inside these pods lies the secret of comfort. The beans are encased in a sweet white mucilaginous pulp that tastes of tropical fruit, but the beans themselves are bitter and dark. They require fermentation, drying and roasting to become the chocolate we know. Cacao is a plant that thrives in the shadows. It cannot bear direct sunlight. It needs the protection of taller mother trees to survive. This preference for shade makes the cacao grove a dark, cool place even at noon. It is a place of deep rest. The air smells of damp earth and fermenting sweetness. Think of the feeling of eating dark chocolate, the way it melts on the tongue, heavy and coating. That sensation begins here, in the heavy, humid stillness of the rainforest. The cacao tree offers a deep, grounded energy. It is the earth transformed into sweetness. Let your mind rest in this dark, protective grove, hidden from the harsh glare of the sun, wrapped in the rich, velvety shadows of the tropics. We leave the heat of the tropics and travel north to the cool, high altitudes of the mountains to witness the miracle of the aspen. Specifically, a colony known as Pando. At first glance, it looks like a forest of individual white-trunked trees with fluttering golden leaves. But this is an illusion. Beneath the soil, they are all connected by a single massive root system. They are one giant organism, one of the oldest and heaviest living things on Earth. The leaves of the aspen are attached to the branch by a flat stem. This unique engineering means that even the slightest breath of wind causes the leaves to twist and flutter. They do not just rustle, they quake, they shimmer. Looking at a mountainside of aspen is like looking at a cascading waterfall of gold coins. The sound is a soft, continuous applause, a murmuring shh that never completely stops. There is a profound comfort in the connection of the aspen. No tree stands alone. If one part of the colony is thirsty, water is sent from another part. If one is sick, nutrients are shared. You're not isolated, you're part of a greater whole, connected by invisible roots to the people and the world around you. You can relax into that support system. Listen to the quaking leaves, a million tiny whispers assuring you that you're held, you're supported, and you are part of something vast and enduring. Drifting on the mountain breeze, we detach from the earth entirely to visit the tillandsia, the air plant. We find it perched high on the branch of an old oak tree, or perhaps clinging to a cliff face. It has no roots in the soil. It asks nothing of the earth. Instead, it draws its life entirely from the atmosphere. It eats the air. It drinks the fog. Look closely at the surface of the air plant's leaves. They are covered in microscopic silver scales called trichomes. These scales are like tiny sponges. When the air is dry, they stand up, giving the plant a fuzzy silver appearance and reflecting the hot sun. When the fog rolls in, the scales lie flat, absorbing the moisture and turning the plant a vibrant green. It is a transformation that happens in silence. The air plant represents ultimate freedom. It is not tethered. It is not weighed down. It exists in the space between things. Imagine being that light. Imagine that you do not need to hold onto the ground. You can float. You can derive your nourishment from the breath itself. Inhale, and imagine you're absorbing moisture and peace from the air around you. Exhale, and feel yourself becoming lighter, turning silver and ethereal, perched safely in the crook of a dream, high above the heavy world. The wind carries a sweet, nectar-filled scent to us, and we follow it to a tangled hedgerow in a country lane. Here grows the honeysuckle. It is a plant of chaotic embrace. The woody vines twist and loop around fences, other plants, and each other, creating a dense, impenetrable thicket. But from this tangle emerge flowers of exquisite tubular beauty, cream and pink curved like trumpets. The honeysuckle is a memory of childhood summers. It holds a drop of pure, sugary nectar at the base of its flower. To reach it, one must be patient. The scent is strongest in the evening, a cloying, heavy sweetness that hangs in the warm air, attracting the hawk moths. The vine does not grow in straight lines, it meanders. It takes the long way round. It hugs everything it touches. There is a laziness to the honeysuckle. It speaks of long, slow evenings where the sun takes hours to set. It speaks of wandering without a destination. Visualize the vine wrapping around a gatepost, securing it, decorating it. Let your thoughts become like the honeysuckle, wandering, curling, sweet and slow. Let them entwine with the trellis of your dreams. The scent fills your head, a honeyed fog that slows down time, making every moment stretch out like warm taffy. Finally, we come to rest at the edge of a field that glows with a deep hypnotic red. The sun is setting, casting long shadows across the Patva royas, the red poppy. The flower heads are heavy, nodding on their hairy wire-like stems. The petals are like crinkled silk, fragile and translucent, fluttering in the gentle evening breeze. They look like crepe paper that has been crumpled and then smoothed out again. The poppy has long been the symbol of eternal sleep. In the centre of the flower is the seed pod, a round, shaker-like capsule crowned with a star. Inside, the sap is milky and potent, the raw material of sedation. But here, in the field, we simply observe the heaviness of the flower. The bud hangs down before it opens, its neck bent in a posture of total relaxation. It looks as though it is dozing. When the petals fall, the seed head remains, rattling softly in the wind, a natural lullaby. The colour red usually signifies danger, but here, in the twilight, the field of poppies looks like a warm, heavy quilt spread over the earth. It is the colour of heavy eyelids. It is the colour of the blood slowing down, of the heart rate steadying. Walk into the field in your mind. The flowers brush against your waist. The air is still. The sensation is one of being pulled gently downward, of gravity becoming a friend. You lie down amongst the red silk flowers, and the world fades away into a soft, hazy land of nod, where the only reality is the deep, restorative darkness of sleep. Leaving the field of heavy, nodding poppies, we allow the sensation of gravity to guide us further, drifting away from the open meadow toward the shelter of the deep, humid south. We find ourselves in an avenue of ancient live oaks, their branches spreading wide like the arms of giants. Draped over every limb, hanging in long grey-green curtains, is the Spanish moss. It is the very atmosphere of sleep made visible. It captures the stillness of the air and gives it form. Spanish moss is not a moss at all, but a cousin of the pineapple, an epiphyte that lives entirely on what the air provides. It has no roots in the ground. It simply hangs, suspended in a state of permanent relaxation. Visualize the texture of these living curtains. They are composed of thousands of tiny interlocking scales that trap moisture and dust from the breeze. They are soft, fibrous, and endlessly intricate. When the wind moves through the avenue, the moss does not resist. It sways. It is a slow, hypnotic pendulum motion, back and forth, grey ghosts dancing in the twilight. There is a gothic comfort here, a feeling of time having stopped long ago. The moss softens the outlines of the trees, blurring the hard wood into fuzzy, indistinct shapes. It acts as a natural sound dampener, absorbing the noise of the world, creating a hushed, cathedral-like silence beneath the canopy. Imagine wrapping yourself in a blanket of this air-light material. It is cool, porous, and smells of rain and old bark. It invites you to let go of your own roots, to stop holding on so tightly to the ground, and to simply hang, suspended and supported by the strong branches of the night, swaying gently in the currents of your dreams. From the humid warmth of the southern oaks, the air begins to cool as we travel upward in elevation, finding ourselves on a misty, rhododendron-covered mountainside in the depths of winter. The rhododendron is a master of thermal conservation, and its leaves tell the temperature better than any thermometer. In the summer, the leaves are broad, flat, and glossy, drinking in the sun. But now, in the cold, they perform a slow, protective movement known as thermonastic curling. Visualize a single, dark green leaf. As the temperature drops, the leaf begins to droop downward, pointing toward the earth. Then, the edges curl inward, rolling the leaf into a tight cigar-like cylinder. This is the plant hugging itself. By reducing its surface area, it protects its delicate underside from the freezing wind and preserves its moisture. It is a posture of self-preservation, a turning inward to wait out the cold. There is a deep lesson in the rhododendron's winter stance. When the environment becomes harsh, or when we are tired, we do not need to remain open and exposed. We are allowed to curl up. We are allowed to make ourselves small and cylindrical, wrapping our energy around our core. Imagine your own body mimicking this leaf. You wrap the blankets tighter around you. You curl your knees to your chest. You reduce your exposure to the world. Inside the tight roll of the leaf, the air is still and slightly warmer. You are safe in your own embrace, waiting patiently for the warmth of the morning sun to signal that it is time to unfurl once again. We descend from the cold mountain into the valley, where the ground softens into the wet, spongy soil of a marshland. Rising from the shallow water are the tall, straight stalks of the cattail. At the top of each stem sits the iconic brown cylinder, the cigar or sausage that defines the wetland silhouette. This structure is actually the female flower spike, densely packed with hundreds of thousands of tiny seeds. Reach out in your mind and touch this brown velvet cylinder. It is shockingly soft. It feels like dense plush fur or high-quality suede. Despite its softness, it is firm and resilient. If you press your finger into it, it springs back. This structure is waterproof, designed to protect the seeds through wind and rain until they are ready to burst into fluff. The cattail stands in the liminal space between water and land, guarding the edges. Listen to the sound of the marsh. The wind rustles through the sword-like leaves of the cattails, creating a dry, whispering swoosh that travels in waves across the wetland. It is a white noise that masks all other sounds. The cattails stand in crowds, shoulder to shoulder, a community of soft sentinels. They filter the water, absorbing pollutants, leaving the marsh clean. Imagine sinking into a bed made of that dense brown velvet. It is firm enough to hold you, yet soft enough to yield. You're surrounded by the rustling reeds, hidden in the tall grass, protected by the velvet guards of the swamp. Leaving the open marsh, we retreat into the dappled shade of a tropical understory to examine a plant that has mastered the art of letting light pass through. We stand before the massive, glossy leaves of the Monstera deliciosa, the Swiss cheese plant. The leaves are huge, heart-shaped emeralds, but they are not solid. They are punctuated by natural holes and deep splits, a phenomenon known as fenestration. These holes are not flaws, they are intentional architectural decisions. In the deep jungle, light is a precious commodity. By creating holes in its own leaves, the Monstera allows flecks of sunlight to pass through to the lower leaves, ensuring that the whole plant survives. It also allows the wind to pass through without tearing the giant leaves. It survives by becoming less solid, by creating empty spaces within itself. There is a profound relaxation in the concept of fenestration. Imagine your mind is like the Monstera leaf. Instead of being a solid wall that catches every worry and every wind that blows, imagine opening small windows in your thoughts. Let the stress flow right through you. Let the noise pass through the holes without resistance. You do not need to catch everything. You can be spacious. You can be open. Look at the shadow the Monstera casts on the jungle floor. A beautiful lace-like pattern of light and dark. By emptying yourself of solidity, you become a beautiful filter, letting the light reach the deepest parts of your being. We drift from the jungle floor into the quiet, controlled atmosphere of a bedroom at night. Standing sentinel in the corner is the Sansevieria, the snake plant. Its leaves are stiff, vertical swords, rising straight up from the soil, painted with patterns of dark green, silver and yellow stripes. This plant is known as a guardian of sleep for a very specific biological reason. Most plants breathe in oxygen and release carbon dioxide at night, just like us. But the snake plant is different. It utilizes a metabolic pathway called CAM photosynthesis. It keeps its pores tight shut during the hot day to save water, and opens them only at night. While you sleep, this plant is hard at work, absorbing the stale carbon dioxide you exhale and releasing fresh, pure oxygen into the room. It is a silent air purifier, working in perfect rhythm with your sleep cycle. Visualize the stiff, upright leaves standing guard. They are unmoving, almost architectural in their stillness. They are the definition of resilience. They can survive weeks of neglect, low light and dry soil, yet they continue to produce oxygen for you. Feel the air in the room becoming cleaner, lighter and richer. Every breath you take is being refreshed by this silent, striped companion. It watches over you, vertical and alert, so that you can be horizontal and unconscious, breathing in the gift of the night. From the dark corner of the room, our mind travels to a moonlit garden filled with silver. We are looking at a patch of Jacobea maritima, commonly known as dusty miller. In a world of green, this plant chooses to be silver. Its leaves are deeply lobed, looking like intricate snowflakes or patterns of frost, but they are not cold. In fact, they are covered in a thick layer of fine, white, woolly hairs. Touch a leaf of dusty miller. It feels like felt. It is warm, dry, and soft. This woolly coat is a sunscreen, reflecting the harsh glare of the day, but at night, under the moon, it makes the plant glow with a ghostly, spectral light. It looks like a piece of the moon has fallen into the garden. The texture is incredibly soothing, a reminder of soft blankets and woolen coats. The dusty miller is a drought-tolerant plant. It does not panic when water is scarce. It relies on its felt coat to trap moisture. It is self-sufficient and calm. Visually, the silver-grey colour acts as a neutralizer. It cools down the vibrant reds and yellows of the garden, creating a space of visual rest. Imagine walking through a garden made entirely of this silver felt. The ground is soft, the light is dim and pearlescent. Everything is muffled, wrapped in wool, quieted by the soft grey blanket of the leaves. Leaving the silver garden, we climb to a rocky, wind-swept outcrop where the air smells of gin and clean wood. Here, twisted into the cracks of the stone, grows the juniper. This is an ancient being. Its wood is incredibly hard and dense, often twisting into spiralling shapes that look like muscle fibres frozen in time. It grows slowly, agonizingly slowly, adding only a millimetre of girth a year. It is the embodiment of persistence. Look closely at the branches. They're covered in tiny scale-like leaves that lie flat against the stem. Nestled among them are the juniper berries, not true berries, but modified fleshy cones. They are a dusty powder blue, covered in a waxy bloom that you can rub off with your thumb. Press your nail into one, and the scent releases immediately. Sharp, piney, pepper, and citrus. It is a cleansing scent. The juniper was once hung in doorways to ward off evil spirits and sickness. It is a protector. Its twisted form shows that it has weathered every storm, every drought, every winter, and it has not broken. It has simply adapted, twisting around the obstacle, lean against the weathered trunk. It feels like stone, warm from the sun. It anchors you. It tells you that you do not need to grow fast to be strong. You can take your time. You can grow slowly, twisting if you need to, finding your foothold in the rock, protected by your own aromatic armour. We descend from the rocks to a sun-baked adobe wall in a Mediterranean climate. Cascading over the wall is a riot of colour, magenta, purple, orange and white. This is the bougainvillea. At first glance it looks like a lush wall of flowers, but look closer. The colourful parts are not petals, they are bracts, modified leaves that have changed colour to attract pollinators. The true flower is a tiny, insignificant white trumpet hidden inside. Reach up and touch the colourful bracts. They are dry and thin, feeling exactly like tissue paper or parchment. They make a dry, crinkling sound when the wind blows, like the turning of pages in an old book. Crinkle, hush, crinkle. It is a dry, papery whisper. Despite their delicate, paper-like appearance, the plant is armed with thorns protecting its beauty. The bougainvillea thrives on neglect. If you water it too much, it grows only green leaves. It needs the stress of dry soil to produce its brilliant colours. It turns hardship into beauty. Imagine the sound of the wind rattling through these paper flowers, a dry, soothing percussion. It is the sound of a hot afternoon where the only thing moving is the breeze. The wall is warm against your back. The paper flowers rustle softly, a lullaby of texture and light, drying out your damp worries, leaving you light and crisp. We move from the bright sun into the cool, low-light interior of a quiet house, finding a plant that speaks the language of peace. The peace lily, Spathiphyllum, stands in a pot, its leaves dark, glossy and lance-shaped, arching gracefully outward like the spray of a fountain. Rising above the foliage on tall stems are the flowers, pure white hood-like spathes that cup a central spike. The peace lily is one of the most communicative plants in the world. It does not suffer in silence. When it is thirsty, it droops. The entire plant relaxes, its leaves laying down, signalling its need. It does not try to stay upright when it lacks the energy. It surrenders, and the moment it receives water, it perks back up, standing tall within hours. It is a cycle of release and renewal. The white flower looks like a white flag of surrender, but not in defeat, in truce. It signals a cessation of hostilities with the world. It cleans the air of toxins like benzene and formaldehyde, quietly scrubbing the atmosphere of invisible poisons. Visualize the smooth white curve of the flower hood. It is cool and sculptural. It represents a space where no conflict exists. You are the peace lily. You are allowed to droop when you are tired. You are allowed to show your softness, and you are protected by the white flag of sleep, claiming sanctuary from the chaos of the day. Finally, we travel to a place of deep, timeless silence, an ancient churchyard at dusk. Standing guard over the resting stones is the yew tree. This is the tree of eternity. Some yews are thousands of years old, predating the stone churches built beside them. The yew has a unique ability. When its central trunk becomes too old and hollow, it sends down internal roots from its branches to form a new trunk inside the old one. It is constantly rebirthing itself from the inside out. It cannot die of old age. The foliage is dark, almost black-green, creating a dense shade where nothing else grows. It is a circle of silence. The needles are soft and flat, arranged spirally. Amidst the dark needles you might see the arils, bright gelatinous red cups that hold the seed. They look like rubies in the darkness. The yew is toxic, a tree that commands respect and distance. Because of this, it is rarely disturbed. It is left alone to watch the centuries pass. Step into the shadow of the yew. The air is always cooler here. The darkness is profound. It is a heavy velvet darkness that absorbs light and sound. The tree stands as a guardian of the threshold between the waking world and the eternal sleep. It is a benevolent watchman. Lean against its massive fluted trunk. It feels like muscle and bone. It holds the memory of thousands of nights. You are safe in its shadow. The world stops here. Time stops here. There is only the dark, green silence wrapping around you, holding you in a stillness that will last until the morning comes. Emerging from the deep protective shadow of the yew tree, we remain in the cool, dim corners of the garden, where the direct sun rarely touches. Here, the ground is lush and damp, home to the broad, ribbed leaves of the hosta. This plant is the master of the shade, turning the absence of light into a display of verdant texture. Visualize the leaves spreading out like green hearts, layering over one another to create a dense, impenetrable canopy over the soil. The surface of a hosta leaf is a landscape in itself. It is deeply quilted, with veins that run in parallel curves from the stem to the tip, creating ridges and valleys. Imagine a gentle rain beginning to fall. Watch a single droplet land on the leaf. Because of the waxy coating and the corrugated texture, the water does not soak in immediately. Instead, it beads up like a pearl of mercury. It slides down the valley of the vein, gathering speed until it drips silently off the pointed tip to water the roots below. There is a satisfying rhythmic quality to the hosta. It is a plant of wide open acceptance. It spreads itself out to catch whatever moisture falls from the trees above. It does not strive for the high canopy. It is content to cover the ground, keeping the earth cool and dark. Imagine running your hand over the cool, bumpy surface of the leaves. They are thick and succulent, full of water, feeling almost cool to the touch like living jade. They invite you to lie down beneath them, to become small and hidden in the green, rainy undergrowth, sheltered by their wide, leafy umbrellas. From the ground cover, our eyes are drawn to an old stone wall bordering the garden. Scaling the masonry with a slow, determined grip is the English ivy. This is not a plant that grows up toward the sun on its own. It requires a partner. It needs something to hold. Visualize the tiny rootlets that emerge from the vine stem. They are like microscopic fingers, seeking out the tiny crevices and imperfections in the stone. anchoring the plant with a strength that can weather any storm. The ivy acts as a blanket for the building. It insulates. In the winter, it keeps the heat in. In the summer, it keeps the heat out. It regulates the temperature of whatever it embraces. Imagine the wall beneath the ivy. It is cool, dark, and protected from the wind and rain. The ivy takes the brunt of the weather, its glossy dark green leaves forming a chaotic yet beautiful shingling effect, shedding the water like scales on a dragon. There is a sense of academic silence associated with ivy, the hushed halls covered in vines, where knowledge is stored and voices are kept low. It muffles sound. A house covered in ivy is a quiet house. Let your mind trace the path of a single vine as it creeps upward, leaf by leaf, finding its foothold, secure and attached. You are that wall, and the sleep you're entering is the ivy, growing slowly over you, covering you in a protective layer of green, muffling the noise of the outside world until you are wrapped in a cocoon of silence. We leave the textured wall and move indoors to a sun-drenched corner where a rubber tree, Ficus elastica, stands in a heavy pot. This plant is a study in gloss and shine. Its leaves are broad, oval, and incredibly thick, with a dark, almost black-green hue that reflects the light like polished leather. They look as though they have been varnished. The birth of a new leaf on a rubber tree is a slow, deliberate spectacle. At the tip of the branch, a bright reddish-pink spike appears. This is a protective sheath, a stipule, wrapping the baby leaf tight. Over days and weeks this sheath swells. It is the pregnant pause of the plant world. Then, one day, it peels away. The sheath falls off, having served its purpose, and the new leaf unfurls, pale, tender, and perfect. Inside the veins of this plant runs a thick white latex sap. It is a viscous milk that heals wounds instantly. If the leaf is scratched, the latex bleeds out and hardens into rubber, sealing the breach. It is a plant of resilience and elasticity. It bends, it does not break. Focus on the shine of the leaves. It is a dark, liquid mirror. The rubber tree stands solid and heavy, a presence of calm authority in the room, reminding you that you have a thick skin, you have inner resources to heal, and you can shine even in the stillness. Drifting back outside, we travel to a landscape that feels ancient and untouched, a granite boulder field in the highlands. Covering the grey stone are splashes of orange, sage green, and yellow. This is lichen. It is not a single plant, but a slow, romantic marriage between two different organisms, a fungus providing the structure and an alga providing the food. They live in perfect symbiosis, so intertwined that they cannot survive alone. Lichen operates on a timescale that is almost geological. It grows fractions of a millimetre per year. It is the patience of the earth made visible. It does not need soil. It eats the rock itself slowly, over centuries, dissolving the minerals with gentle acids to create new earth. Touch the surface of the lichen in your mind. It is dry, crusty, and rough, like the page of an ancient book that has been left open to the elements. When it rains, the lichen transforms. It swells, softens, and its colours become vibrant, glowing against the wet grey stone. It is a survivor of the extremes, living where nothing else can, on the bare, windswept faces of mountains. There is a comfort in this slowness. The lichen tells you that there is no rush. You do not need to move fast to be effective. You can sit still, clinging to your centre, weathering the wind and the rain, slowly becoming a part of the landscape, beautiful in your endurance. From the dry rock we descend to a cottage garden where the soil is rich and acidic. Here, gigantic blooms of hydrangea bow their heads under their own weight. These are not single flowers, but spherical clusters of hundreds of smaller blossoms, forming a mop head the size of a human head. They are the water vessels of the garden. Their name comes from hydra, meaning water. The hydrangea is a chameleon. Its colour is not fixed in its DNA but is determined by the soil it lives in. In acidic earth, it turns a deep, vivid blue. In alkaline earth, it blushes pink. It is a reflection of its environment, a soft, responsive mirror. Visualize the heavy pom-pom heads nodding in the breeze. They are so full, so abundant, that the stems bend in a graceful arch. As the season turns to autumn, the hydrangea undergoes a beautiful aging process. The petals do not drop, they dry on the stem. They turn from blue and pink to shades of vintage green, parchment, and rust. They become like paper flowers, preserving their beauty even as they become brittle. They rustle softly, a dry, papery sound that whispers of nostalgia. Imagine sinking your face into one of these giant soft clouds of flowers. They're cool and damp, smelling of fresh rain and green sap. They represent gratitude and abundance, filling your vision with soft, rounded shapes that have no sharp edges, only billowy comfort. We move from the cottage garden to the edge of a humid bog, where the air is still and flies buzz lazily. Rising from the peat moss is the elegant, deadly curve of the pitcher plant. Forget its carnivorous nature for a moment and focus on its form. It is a vessel. A leaf has evolved into a deep, slender cup swirling with patterns of red and green veins. At the top of the cup is a fixed lid, preventing the rain from diluting the precious liquid inside. The rim of the pitcher is rolled and perfectly smooth, slippery as glass. Inside there is a pool of nectar and water, still and deep. It is a hidden reservoir. Visualize the stillness of that water. It is protected from the wind by the walls of the plant. It never ripples. The pitcher plant is a container. It holds. It gathers. Think of your mind as this pitcher. You are containing your thoughts. You're gathering them into a single deep pool where they can dissolve and be processed. The plant hangs from its tendril, heavy with liquid, swaying gently. It suggests a heavy, fluid feeling in the body, the sensation of being filled with a warm, heavy relaxation that weighs you down, anchoring you to the bed, just as the fluid anchors the pitcher to the vine. Leaving the bog, we find ourselves in a wild, overgrown meadow at the height of summer. Rising above the grass is the spiky silhouette of the thistle. It is a plant of armour. Every leaf is edged with sharp spines, a fortress of green protecting the treasure inside. At the very top sits the flower, a crown of electric purple filaments, soft as a shaving brush. But the true magic of the thistle happens after the flower fades. The purple turns to white. The seeds mature, attached to silky, feathery parachutes known as thistledown. Visualize a gust of wind hitting the dry thistle head. The down explodes outward. It is one of the softest substances in nature. Follow a single piece of thistledown as it drifts. It catches the light, shimmering like silver thread. It is weightless, aimless, floating higher and higher into the blue sky. It represents the release of burdens. The thistle is tough and sharp on the outside so that it can protect this softness on the inside. You too can drop your armour now. You can let the sharp defences of the day fall away, revealing the soft, floating drift of your consciousness. Watch the white fluff spiral away over the hills, carrying your thoughts with it, leaving you empty and light. The wind carries us across the sea to a dry, sun-baked plateau in Spain, where the earth is red and dusty. Here, in the early morning light, blooms the saffron crocus. It is a small purple flower, growing close to the ground. But inside the purple cup lie 3 vivid crimson-red threads, the stigmas. This is the most precious spice in the world, worth more by weight than gold. The harvest happens only at dawn before the sun is too high. It is a quiet, delicate operation. Visualize the contrast of colours, the violet petals, the yellow pollen, and the shocking blood-red threads. The scent of saffron is metallic, honeyed, and grassy, a complex hay-like perfume that speaks of the earth. To produce just a small pile of saffron requires thousands of flowers. It is the essence of concentration. It teaches us that the most valuable things are often small and hidden. Imagine the taste of saffron, warm, earthy, and golden. It turns everything it touches to gold. Let this golden warmth spread through your mind. You're harvesting the quiet moments of the night, gathering them like precious red threads, one by one, storing up the richness of rest. We return to the shelter of a warm indoor sanctuary, where a vine cascades from a high shelf, reaching all the way to the floor. This is the pothos, or devil's ivy. It is the plant of infinite flow. Its heart-shaped leaves are splashed with patterns of gold, cream, and lime green, a variegation that looks like sunlight filtering through water. No two leaves are the same. The pothos does not stop. It trails. It wanders. It can grow in water or soil, in light or shadow. It is the definition of ease. Visualize the long green vines draping down like hair, soft and flexible. They follow the pull of gravity, hanging loose and relaxed. There is no tension in a trailing vine. It simply lets go and grows downward. Imagine that your muscles are like the pothos vines. They are lengthening. They are unspooling. They are draping over the edge of the bed, heavy and loose. The plant filters the air, scrubbing it clean, while visually creating a curtain of green rain. It is a waterfall of leaves. Let your gaze follow the vine down, leaf by leaf, lower and lower, descending into the soothing depths of the room. Finally, we step into the edge of a woodland clearing at twilight, where the shadows are long and purple. Rising tall from a rosette of leaves are the stately spires of the foxglove. The stem stands rigid and straight, and hanging from it are rows of tubular bell-shaped flowers, pink and purple, speckled inside with dark dots like the throat of a dragon. The name foxglove comes from folk's glove, the gloves of the fairies. The shape is perfect for a finger or a bumblebee. Watch a bee enter one of these bells. The flower swallows it completely. The sound of the bee's buzz changes from a sharp hum to a muffled, resonant vibration inside the tube. It is a sound chamber. The foxglove is a plant of powerful medicine, digitalis, that regulates the heart rhythm. It speaks of the pulse of life, but in the garden, it speaks of silence. These are bells that do not ring. They hang heavy and mute, nodding slightly in the breeze. They represent a deep, hushed quiet. The forest is darkening around the tall spires. The dots inside the flowers guide the way to the nectar, a secret map for the bees. You're standing in the quiet cathedral of the woods, surrounded by these silent bells, feeling your own heart rate slow down, matching the steady, calm rhythm of the earth, waiting for the stars to come out. From the quiet, bell-hung cathedral of the foxgloves, we lower our gaze to the forest floor, where the cycle of life rests in its most profound state of surrender. Lying across the path, half buried in the leaf litter, is a nurse log. It was once a mighty tree, standing tall and rigid against the sky, but now it has lain down to rest. It has given up its vertical ambition for a horizontal peace. It is not dead. It is merely transforming, becoming a cradle for new life. Visualize the texture of this softening wood. It is spongy and yielding, covered in a thick, vibrant tapestry of deep green moss and tiny, shelf-like mushrooms. The log holds moisture like a sponge, staying cool and damp even in the heat of summer. Because of this water, seeds fall upon it and find a perfect place to grow. Tiny hemlocks and ferns sprout from the mossy back of the fallen giant, their roots wrapping around the old wood, drawing sustenance from its history. There is a deep comfort in the concept of the nurse log, the idea that nothing is wasted, and that falling down is simply the beginning of a new way of supporting the world. The log is softening, dissolving, returning to the earth in slow motion. Imagine laying your hand on the mossy bark. It gives way slightly under your touch. It smells of rich earth, rain, and mushrooms, a heavy, grounding scent that speaks of the deep, dark woods where time moves at the speed of decay. You're allowed to be heavy. You're allowed to soften. Like the log, you can let go of your rigidity and simply let the forest hold you, becoming a foundation for your own dreams to grow. We follow the moisture from the damp log down through the soil, trickling into a subterranean stream that feeds into a cold, clear lake in Japan. Here, rolling gently on the dark, sandy bottom, live the Marimo moss balls. These are not plants with roots. They are untethered spheres of velvety green algae. They have no top and no bottom. They're perfectly round, shaped by the gentle rocking of the currents over decades. Visualize these green planets drifting in the dim light of the lake floor. They are soft to the touch, squishy and dense like a wet sponge. During the day, they photosynthesize, producing tiny bubbles of oxygen that get trapped in their velvet fur. Sometimes, if they produce enough bubbles, they become buoyant and float slowly to the surface to kiss the sun, only to sink back down into the comforting darkness when the light fades. It is a slow, vertical migration, a silent elevator ride driven by breath. The Marimo teaches us the beauty of having no sharp edges. It rolls with the punches. It does not resist the water, it is shaped by it. Imagine holding one of these cool, water-filled spheres in your hands. It is heavy with the lake. It is the colour of the deepest emerald. It represents a self-contained world, a complete circle of life that requires nothing but clean water and dim light. You are drifting with the Marimo now, rolling gently on the soft sand, weightless, round and whole, protected by the cool, insulating waters of the deep. Rising from the lake, we find ourselves on the banks of a river in early spring, where the air is crisp and the branches are bare. But looking closely at the willow shrubs, we see the first sign of softness returning to the world, the pussy willow. Before the leaves appear, these plants produce catkins, flower clusters that are covered in a dense, fine coat of silver-grey fur. Reach out in your mind and stroke a single pussy willow catkin. It feels exactly like the paw of a tiny kitten or the tip of a rabbit's ear. It is impossibly soft, silky, and warm. This fur is not for decoration. It is an insulating coat. It traps the heat of the sun and protects the developing flower parts from the lingering frost. It is nature's way of keeping warm in a cold world. The contrast between the hard, brown, woody stem and the soft, silver fur is a delight to the senses. It reminds us that toughness and softness can exist on the same branch. The pussy willow does not hide its softness. It wears it proudly as armour against the cold. Rub the velvet catkin against your cheek in your imagination. It tickles slightly, a gentle, ghostly touch. It is the promise of spring wrapped in a winter coat. Let that sensation of silver fur brush against your mind, soothing the nerves, bringing a tactile comfort that creates a feeling of safety and warmth. As the season advances, we move to a sun-drenched garden where the lunaria plant, also known as honesty or silver dollar, has gone to seed. Earlier in the year it had purple flowers, but now it has transformed into something ethereal. The seed pods are flat, round discs, hanging from the dry stems like pendants. At first, the pods are green and opaque, but as they dry, the outer layers peel away, falling to the ground to reveal the central membrane. This membrane is the true treasure. It is pearlescent, translucent, and shining with a silvery white luster. It looks like a full moon captured on a stem. It looks like a window into another world. When the wind blows, these silver coins rustle against each other with a sound like dry whispers or the shuffling of paper money. Hold one of these translucent discs up to the sun. The light passes through it, glowing with a soft, diffused radiance. It is fragile, yet it persists through the winter. The plant is called honesty because it has nothing to hide. It has stripped away all its outer layers to reveal its clear, shining center. There is a peace in this transparency. Imagine your own thoughts becoming like the lunaria pods, stripping away the heavy, opaque layers of worry until only the clear silver light shines through. You are light, paper-thin, and shimmering, rattling softly in the breeze. We step indoors now, into the warm, regulated atmosphere of a quiet room as evening falls. On a low table sits a prayer plant, Maranta leuconura. Its leaves are beautiful, oval-shaped canvases painted with intricate patterns of dark green, lime, and red veins that look like fish bones. But this plant is not a statue. It is a moving entity. It possesses a circadian rhythm that is visible to the naked eye. During the day, the leaves lie flat, spreading out to catch the light. But as the sun sets and the room grows dim, the plant begins its nightly ritual. At the base of each leaf is a tiny swollen joint called the pulvinus, which acts like a hydraulic muscle. As the light fades, the plant pumps water out of this joint, causing the leaves to lift up and fold together, standing vertical like a pair of hands in prayer. Watch this slow-motion movement. It is the plant tucking itself in. It is closing its shop for the night. It gathers its energy inward, exposing the purple undersides of the leaves to the room. It signals to you that the time for productivity is over. The time for reception and rest has begun. If the room is very quiet, you might even hear the faint rustle of the leaves brushing against each other as they rise. Join the prayer plant in this ritual. Fold your hands, fold your thoughts, and lift your spirit into a vertical posture of gratitude and sleep, closing yourself off from the demands of the day. Leaving the quiet room, we travel to a vast, open landscape, the pampas of South America, or perhaps a coastal dune. Here, growing in massive fountain-like clumps, is the pampas grass. These are the giants of the grass world, reaching 10 feet into the air. But it is not their size that soothes us. It is their texture and their colour. The colours of pampas grass are the colours of sleep: oatmeal, wheat, cream, sand, and pale beige. There is nothing jarring here, no bright reds or neons. It is a palette of neutrality. Topping each tall stalk is a plume, a dense, feathery tuft that looks like a cloud tethered to the earth. These plumes are incredibly soft, catching the light and turning golden in the late afternoon sun. The wind is the conductor of the pampas grass. When the breeze blows, the entire field moves in a synchronized wave. The plumes nod and bow, swaying with a heavy, languid rhythm. The sound is a soft, continuous hissing or swishing, a white noise that blots out the sharp sounds of the world. Imagine walking into a thicket of this grass. You are completely hidden. The stalks tower over you, creating a private wall of beige and cream. The ground is soft with fallen blades. You are immersed in a sea of dry, warm feathers, rocking back and forth, hypnotized by the endless swaying of the plumes. The golden warmth of the pampas fades into the cool, blue-white light of late winter. We are kneeling on the frozen ground, looking at a patch of snow. Pushing up through the ice, defying the freeze, is the snowdrop galanthus. This tiny flower is a miracle of thermal engineering. It produces its own heat, melting the snow around its stem to create a tiny personal circle of water. The flower itself hangs from a delicate, arching stem. It does not look up at the sun. It looks down at the earth. It is a nodding flower. 3 pure white outer petals protect a smaller inner cup marked with green. It looks like a drop of milk frozen in mid-air, or a pearl earring hanging from a green thread. The snowdrop represents the quiet courage of hope. It does not wait for the warm days. It brings its own warmth. It stands alone against the white landscape, clean and pristine. There is a stillness around the snowdrop that is absolute. The world is asleep under the snow, but this one point of life is awake, bowing its head in humility. Visualize the cool, crisp air filling your lungs. Visualize the white flower against the white snow, a study in subtlety. It invites you to bow your head as well, to release the tension in your neck, and to look downward into the dark, nurturing soil, resting in the cool purity of the winter silence. From the snow, we move to the damp, shaded rock face of a waterfall, where the air is filled with mist. Clinging to the dark stone is the maidenhair fern. This is the most delicate of all ferns. Its stem is not thick and green, but thin, black and shiny, looking like a strand of polished wire or dark hair. Branching from this wire are leaves that look like green lace, shaped like tiny fans. The leaves of the maidenhair fern have a special property. They are hydrophobic. Even though they live in the spray of the waterfall, they cannot get wet. If you splash water on them, it beads up instantly and rolls off, leaving the green fans perfectly dry. They remain light and airy, dancing in the updrafts created by the falling water. Because the stems are so thin, the maidenhair fern is never still. It trembles, it shimmers with the slightest breath of air. It is a visual representation of sensitivity. But it is not fragile in its survival. It clings to the slippery rock with tenacity. Watch the green lace trembling in the mist. It is a gentle, nervous energy that is being released, shaking off the water, shaking off the weight. It stays dry in the middle of the deluge. You too can let the heavy emotions of the day roll off you like water off the maidenhair, leaving you dry, light, and dancing softly in the spray. We leave the waterfall and enter a dry, sun-baked kitchen garden where the soil is rocky and warm. We brush our hands against a low woody shrub with pebbled grey-green leaves. This is sage. The leaves are thick and textured, covered in a fine velvet fuzz that makes them look frosted. They are soft to the touch, like felt pads. But the true power of sage is in the oil released by that touch. Rub a leaf between your fingers and bring it to your nose. The scent is earthy, savoury, camphoraceous and grounding. It smells of ancient wisdom. It is a clearing scent. For centuries, sage has been burned to clear spaces of negative energy, to wipe the slate clean. Breathing in the scent of sage feels like dusting out the cobwebs of the mind. It is savoury, not sweet. It grounds you in the physical world, in the here and now. The grey-green colour is restful to the eyes, blending into the shadows of the garden. Imagine wrapping yourself in a cloak made of sage leaves, thick, velvet, and aromatic. It protects you. It creates a boundary. Inside the cloak, the air is clean and silent. The old energy is cleared away, carried off on the savoury breeze, leaving a neutral, quiet space for you to rest. Finally, we retreat into the deepest part of the deciduous woods, where the canopy is thick and the light is dim. We are looking for a plant that hides itself, the jack-in-the-pulpit. At first glance, it looks like a strange striped pitcher rising from the forest floor. This structure is called the spathe, a leaf that has curled around to form a deep hooded canopy, striped in shades of green, purple and brown. Inside this hood stands the jack, the spadix, a smooth, upright column. But he is hidden. The hood curves over the top, protecting the interior from the rain and the eyes of the casual observer. You have to crouch down and peer inside to see the heart of the plant. It is a natural shelter, a tiny one-person tent pitched in the wild. The jack-in-the-pulpit speaks of the need for privacy. It creates its own roof. It walls itself off. In the fall, the hood withers away to reveal a cluster of bright red berries. But for now, in the green season, it is all about concealment. Imagine shrinking down and stepping inside that green and purple hood. It is cool and dark inside. The walls are smooth. You're completely invisible to the world outside. The hood arches over your head, shielding you. You're Jack, standing safe in your pulpit, surrounded by the quiet reverence of the forest, hidden, secure, and deeply, deeply asleep. From the secret enclosed sanctuary of the jack-in-the-pulpit, where we are hidden from the eyes of the forest, our consciousness sinks lower still, merging with the dry, rocky ground of the South African desert. We are looking for a plant that has mastered the ultimate disguise, the art of becoming invisible by becoming still. We are seeking the lithops, known to the world as living stones. Scanning the pebbled ground, it is nearly impossible to tell where the earth ends and the plant begins. The lithops consists of two thick, fleshy leaves fused together, shaped exactly like the smooth grey and brown river stones that surround them. They have no stem. They have no branches. They sit flush with the soil, burying their bodies deep underground, exposing only their flat tops to the sun. This is the wisdom of camouflage. By looking like a rock, the plant avoids being eaten. By burying itself, it stays cool in the blistering heat. Visualize the top of these living stones. They are mottled with intricate patterns of darker lines and translucent dots, mimicking the texture of granite or sandstone. There is a profound stillness here. The lithops does not sway in the wind. It does not flutter. It mimics the permanence of geology. Imagine touching the top of the plant. It is firm, cool, and smooth, indistinguishable from a pebble until you feel the faint vibrating hum of life within. It teaches us that sometimes the safest place to be is grounded, low, and indistinguishable from the earth itself. You are solid. You are unmoving. You are a stone resting in the warm sand, completely at peace with the silence of the desert floor. As the heat of the day rises from the stones, carrying with it the scent of baked earth, we catch a new fragrance on the wind, a scent that is the very definition of desert rain. We drift across the arid plains of the American Southwest to stand before the creosote bush. To the uninitiated, it looks like a ragged, scraggly shrub, its small, dark green leaves coated in a shiny, sticky resin. But this plant is a time traveller. Some circular colonies of creosote, known as king clone, have been growing from the same root system for over 11,000 years. They were here when the glaciers receded. The magic of the creosote lies in its coating. The leaves are varnished with a complex resin that prevents water loss, sealing the moisture inside. When the rain finally falls on the desert, or even when the humidity rises before a storm, this resin dissolves slightly, releasing a powerful, musky, earthy perfume. It is the smell of chaparral. It is the smell of relief. Breathe in this imaginary scent. It is sharp, medicinal, and deeply cleansing. It smells of survival. It smells of ancient memories. The creosote bush tells us that we can endure the longest droughts. We can seal our energy inside, coating ourselves in a protective layer, waiting for the rain. And when the relief comes, we release our essence into the world, stand in the centre of an ancient creosote ring, feeling the protection of 11,000 years of survival, wrapped in the scent of rain on dry earth, knowing that you too are built to last. The scent of the rain brings us to the branch of an old, mossy oak tree in the deep, humid south. Here, clinging to the rough bark, is a patch of what looks like dead, shriveled brown leaves. This is the resurrection fern, Pleopeltes polypodioids. In dry weather, this plant performs a dramatic act of withdrawal. It loses 97% of its water. It curls its fronds inward, turning grey and brown, shrinking into itself until it looks completely lifeless. It enters a state of suspended animation, waiting without complaint. But watch what happens as the first drops of the rainstorm we smelled earlier begin to fall. The water hits the shriveled leaves. Almost instantly, the cells begin to rehydrate. The resurrection begins. In a matter of hours, the brown, crispy clump unfurls into a lush, vibrant emerald green carpet. It is one of the most rapid transformations in nature. The fern does not hold on to its shape when resources are low. It adapts. It knows that dead is just a temporary state, a pause in the conversation. Visualize this transformation happening within you. Imagine that any part of you that feels dry, tired, or withered is being touched by the waters of sleep. Watch as your energy unfurls. Watch as the colour returns. You're drinking in the rest, expanding, turning green and soft again. The resurrection. Fern teaches us that we can always return. We can always begin again. No matter how dry the season, the rain will come, and we will rise to meet it. High in the canopy, near the revived fern, hangs another marvel of the epiphytic world, the staghorn fern. This plant is a study in duality, possessing two distinct types of leaves, or fronds, that serve two very different purposes. There are the antler fronds, which cascade down like green ribbons dancing in the air. But at the base, hugging the tree, is the shield frond. Focus your attention on the shield. It is round, flat, and often brown and papery, looking like a dry scab or a piece of parchment. Its job is not to look pretty. Its job is to protect the roots and to catch. It curves outwards slightly at the top, creating a pocket that catches falling leaves, twigs, and water, composting them to feed the plant. It creates its own soil high in the air. The shield frond wraps around the branch of the host tree, gripping it with a gentle but unbreakable embrace. It is the anchor. Imagine you are the staghorn. You have a shield at your back, a wide protective plate that stands between you and the hard wood. It holds you secure. It catches everything you need. You do not need to go looking for nourishment. It falls right into your lap, caught by the shield, feeding you while you rest. You are mounted securely to the tree of life, held safe by your own protective embrace, letting your antler fronds hang loose and limp in the gentle breeze. From the sturdy anchor of the shield frond, we follow the idea of hanging foliage to a sun-drenched window in a quiet house. Cascading from a hanging basket is a waterfall of green beads. This is the string of pearls, Senecio raulianus. It is a succulent that has abandoned the traditional leaf shape for the perfect efficiency of the sphere. Look closely at one of these pearls. It is the size of a pea, bright green and filled with water. It is a tiny, self-contained reservoir. But the most fascinating detail is the epidermal window. On the side of each pearl is a thin, vertical slit that looks darker than the rest of the bead. This is a transparent window that allows light to penetrate deep into the centre of the sphere, illuminating the plant from the inside out. The pearls hang on thin, thread-like stems, draping down and down, growing longer with every season. They are heavy with water, and this weight pulls them straight down, creating a curtain of living beads. Imagine running your fingers through these strings. They are cool, smooth, and bumpy. They click softly against each other. There is no resistance in the string of pearls. It surrenders completely to gravity. It is a plant of letting go. Visualize your thoughts as these green pearls, sliding down a string one after another, dropping away, leaving you with a mind that is cool, round, and filled with light. We leave the hanging basket and drift out to the edge of a gravelly roadside or a dry meadow, where a giant stands guard. It is the great mullein, also known as velvet plant or cowboy toilet paper. In its first year, it forms a low rosette of leaves that are among the softest things in the botanical world. Reach down and touch a mullein leaf. It is thick, large, and covered in a dense woolly coat of silver-grey hairs. It feels thicker than flannel, softer than felt. It is like touching the ear of a giant animal. This fur protects the plant from insects and dehydration, but for us, it is a pure tactile comfort. The leaves are arranged in a spiral, layering over each other to create a warm, dry bed. In its second year, the mullein shoots up a tall, stiff spike topped with yellow flowers, acting as a beacon. But tonight we focus on the rosette, the base, the comfort. Imagine lying down on a bed made of mullein leaves. It would be the warmest, softest mattress in existence. The woolly hairs trap your body heat. The thickness of the leaf cushions you from the hard ground. It is a plant that feels like a blanket. Wrap yourself in the imaginary grey-green velvet of the mullein. It is dry, warm, and incredibly soothing, muffling the sharpness of the world, wrapping you in a layer of natural fleece. From the dry warmth of the roadside, we move to the cool, damp shade of a spring garden, where the bleeding hearts, Lamprocapnos spectabilis, are in bloom. These flowers are a masterpiece of sentimental shape. They hang in a row from a horizontal arching stem, like charms on a bracelet or lanterns on a string. Each flower is shaped perfectly like a heart, puffy and pink, or white, with two outer petals that curve outward. At the bottom of the heart, extending downward, is a white inner petal that looks like a single droplet falling. It is a frozen moment of emotion. The flower hangs suspended, dangling by a thread that is almost invisible. Watch the gentle movement of the bleeding heart in the breeze. Because the stem is so thin and the flower is top-heavy, it bobs and dances with the slightest air current. It is a gentle, rhythmic nodding. It looks fragile, yet it returns every spring, hardy and reliable. The plant speaks of tenderness. It wears its heart on its sleeve, or rather on its stem. Visualize that row of hanging hearts, swaying back and forth, back and forth. They are heavy with sweetness. They invite you to let your own heart hang heavy, to let your emotions be suspended in the cool air, dangling freely, releasing the droplet of tension you've been holding until you are light and empty. As the sun begins to set over the garden, we turn our attention to a bed of tulips. These flowers are phototactic and thermonastic. They move in response to light and temperature. During the day, the tulip is a wide open cup drinking in the sun. But as the evening air cools and the light fades, the flower begins to close. It is a slow, private shutting of the doors. The petals are thick and waxy, with a texture like the finest satin. As they curve inward, they overlap perfectly, creating a sealed, egg-shaped dome. Inside this dome, the reproductive parts of the flower remain warm, insulated by the layer of air trapped within the petals. If you listen very closely in a quiet room, you can sometimes hear the squeak of tulip leaves or petals rubbing against each other as they move. It is the sound of growing, the sound of settling. Imagine you're inside the closing tulip. The walls of satin are rising up around you. The light is dimming, turning from bright red or yellow to a soft, muted glow. The petals lock together above your head, shutting out the cold, shutting out the night. You're enclosed in a smooth, cool chamber of colour. It is the perfect sleeping bag, designed by nature. You're safe, contained, and ready to rest until the warmth of the morning signals you to open again. The simple cup of the tulip fades into a vision of infinite complexity as we gaze upon the face of a dahlia. This is a flower of mathematics. The petals are arranged in a mesmerizing spiral, a perfect Fibonacci sequence that draws the eye deeper and deeper into the center. There are hundreds of petals, each one a small rolled tube or a flat tongue, packed together in a honeycomb of color. The density of a dahlia is satisfying. It is a heavy flower. The head often droops slightly on the stem, weighted down by its own abundance. The symmetry is flawless. As you look at the pattern, your mind tries to follow the spirals, round and round, overlapping, repeating. It is a visual mantra. There is no beginning and no end to the pattern, just a continuous unfolding. The colours are often gradients, pale at the centre, darkening to the tips, or vice versa, creating a sense of depth and tunnel-like vision. Allow your mind to get lost in the geometry of the dahlia. It is a labyrinth of petals. You're walking inward, tracing the spiral, stepping from one soft petal to the next, going deeper into the mandala. The repetition is hypnotic. It crowds out chaotic thoughts, leaving only the order, the symmetry, and the heavy, beautiful weight of the flowerhead bowing in sleep. Finally, we leave the garden entirely and travel north to the snowy forests of Canada and New England, to stand before a sugar maple in the depth of winter. The tree looks bare. Its branches are dark silhouettes against the grey sky. It appears to be sleeping the deepest sleep of all, a frozen dormancy. But deep inside, there is a secret warmth. The sugar maple has a unique ability to store starch in its roots during the summer. As winter sets in, that starch is converted to sugar. This sugar acts as a natural antifreeze, keeping the living cells of the tree from freezing and bursting in the bitter cold. The tree is filled with sweetness, even in the darkest, coldest month. And then, as the days begin to lengthen and the temperature fluctuates between freezing at night and thawing by day, the sap begins to flow. It is a hydraulic pressure, a heartbeat of the forest. The sweet water rushes up from the roots, defying gravity. travelling through the xylem to wake up the sleeping buds high in the canopy. Place your hand on the cold, grey bark. You cannot see the flow, but you can feel the presence of the tree, solid, enduring, and sweet at its core. It tells you that you can survive the winter of the mind. You can store your sweetness deep in your roots. You can rest in the cold, knowing that you have the energy to wake up when the time is right. The sap flows slowly, like a thick golden dream, moving through the wood, nourishing, warming, and preparing for the new life to come. But for now, the tree stands still, holding its sweetness inside, a silent guardian of the winter night. Leaving the frozen, silent sweetness of the sugar maple, our consciousness travels across the ocean to a warmer, drier climate, landing in the rolling groves of Portugal and Spain. Here, standing with gnarly dignity under the Mediterranean sun, is the cork oak. This tree possesses a gift of incredible generosity and regeneration. Unlike other trees where the bark is a thin, vital skin that cannot be removed, the cork oak develops a thick, rugged outer layer that is designed to be shed. Visualize the texture of this bark. It is not hard and cold like the maple. It is soft, spongy, and warm to the touch. It is full of air. Millions of microscopic pockets of nitrogen are trapped within the cellular structure, making the bark incredibly light and elastic. It is nature's shock absorber. Press your hand against the trunk in your mind. It yields slightly, like firm foam, then springs back. It feels insulating, blocking out the heat of the sun and the noise of the wind. Every 9 years the harvesters come. They gently strip this thick layer away in great curved planks, leaving the tree naked but unharmed. The tree does not die. It simply begins the slow, patient work of growing a new coat. It is a cycle of release and renewal. Imagine stripping away your own layers of tension in this way. Imagine the heavy, armour-like plating of stress that you've carried for so long being gently peeled away, leaving you light, exposed, and free to breathe. You are soft wood underneath. You are buoyant. You are like the cork floating on the surface of the sea, unable to sink, held up by the very air you breathe, resting in the warm golden light of the grove. From the sun-baked cork forests, we drift northward to the cool, verdant trellises of a hop garden in late summer. Climbing in vigorous clockwise spirals are the bines of the hop plant. Notice I say bines, not vines. They do not use tendrils to grab. They use the entire strength of their stem, equipped with tiny stiff hairs to grip and twist, pulling themselves upward toward the sky with a muscular embrace. But it is the fruit, the strobile, that calls to us. Visualize these hanging cones. They are made of overlapping papery green scales, looking like small, soft pine cones or leafy lanterns. They hang in heavy clusters weighing down the bines. Reach out and squeeze one of these cones. It is dry and crinkly, making a sound like parchment paper. Crinkle, hush. Inside the cone lies the secret, a golden yellow powder called lupulin. This sticky, resinous dust is the source of the plant's power. It carries a scent that is deeply bitter, piney, and earthy. It is a heavy scent, one that has been used for centuries to treat insomnia. In the old days, pillows were stuffed with dried hops to bring about a deep comatose slumber. The scent seems to weigh down the eyelids. It is a drowsy, narcotic fragrance that signals the brain to shut down. Imagine resting your head on a pillow filled with these dry green paper cones. Every time you move, a fresh wave of that heavy, sleep-inducing scent is released, and the soft, rustling sound lulls you deeper into the mattress, wrapping you in the green, spiraling embrace of the bind. The heavy, drowsy scent of the hops guides us downward, away from the trellis and into the dark, rich soil itself. We are seeking the root of the valerian plant. Above ground, valerian is a tall, elegant plant with clusters of sweet, pinkish-white flowers that smell of vanilla and cherry. But the power of sleep does not lie in the flowers. It lies in the tangle of roots hidden in the cool earth. We sink into the ground to examine this root system. It is fibrous, brown, and persistent. The scent of the root is vastly different from the flower. It is musky, woody, and pungent. It smells of damp earth and old leather. It is a grounding scent, one that pulls energy down from the head and into the body. This root has been the premier sedative of the herbal world for thousands of years. It calms the racing heart. It silences the chattering mind. Valerian root contains compounds that interact with the same receptors in the brain as our natural relaxation chemicals. It is literally a key that fits the lock of sleep. Imagine the essence of this root moving through you like a dark, slow river. It is heavy liquid. It pulls you down toward the center of the earth, away from the light, away from the air, into the safe, muffled silence of the underground. You are rooted. You're held fast by the soil. The frantic energy of the surface cannot reach you here in the deep, musky dark. Rising slowly from the soil, we find ourselves in an autumn garden as the leaves begin to fall. Standing on a thin, zigzagging stem is a lantern glowing in the twilight. This is the Chinese lantern plant, Physalis alcakengi. In the summer, it was a simple white flower, but now it has transformed into a papery husk, bright pumpkin orange, shaped like a perfect balloon or a closed bell. The magic of this plant is in its decay. As winter approaches, the orange paper begins to fade and weather. The soft tissue between the veins dissolves, leaving behind only the intricate network of veins. The pod becomes skeletonized. It turns into a cage of delicate beige lace. Look through the holes of this natural lace. Suspended in the center, like a glowing ember or a beating heart, is the fruit, a bright red berry. It is protected, caged, and visible all at once. The outer husk sacrifices itself to reveal the inner treasure. It is a study in structure and transparency. Hold one of these skeletal lanterns in your mind. It is weightless, fragile, and exquisite. It reminds us that even as things weather and fade, the core remains bright. The structure holds. You can let your outer defenses weather away, turning to lace, letting the light shine through, knowing that the fruit of your spirit is safe suspended in the center. We leave the fragile lace of the lantern and travel to the tropical heat of the Americas to witness a marvel of biological geometry, the passion flower. This is not a simple bloom. It is a complex machine of nature, looking almost like a clock face or a mandala constructed of purple and white filaments. Visualize the structure. At the base are 10 white petals. Above them lies a fringe of hundreds of wavy purple and white threads, radiating outward from the center like a halo or a corona. In the very center, rising on a column, are the reproductive parts, shaped like 3 nails and 5 hammers, hovering above the flower like the hands of a clock. The symmetry is mesmerizing. It draws the eye in. The complex fringe of filaments was said to represent the crown of thorns, but here, in the Garden of Sleep, it represents a soft landing pad for the bees. The scent is sweet and fruity, but it is the visual complexity that hypnotizes. It looks like a portal. Stare into the center of the passion flower. Trace the radial lines of the purple filaments. They vibrate with a static energy that tires the eye in the most pleasant way. It is too complex to analyze, so the mind gives up. It surrenders to the beauty. You're falling into the clock face where time does not move, caught in the soft purple fringe of the present moment. From the visual complexity of the passion flower, we close our eyes and let our sense of smell guide us to the dry, deciduous forests of India. We are standing before a sandalwood tree. This is a tree that guards its secret well. The bark has no scent. The leaves have no scent. The magic is hidden deep within the heartwood, the dead central core of the trunk. Sandalwood is a hemiparasite. Its roots gently tap into the roots of other trees to steal water and nutrients. It lives in close connection with the forest, but to produce its famous oil, the tree must mature for at least 30 to 60 years. It takes a lifetime of slow growth to develop the heart. The scent of sandalwood is legendary. It is creamy, milky, woody, and incredibly smooth. There are no sharp edges to this smell. It is the olfactory equivalent of velvet. It has been used in temples for millennia because it calms the mind and encourages a meditative state. Imagine a piece of this wood being slowly ground into a paste on a wet stone. The friction releases the oil. The scent rises, wrapping around you like a warm beige shawl. It creates a sacred space. It tells you that you are safe, you are holy, and you are here. Breathe in the creamy wood scent, letting it coat your nerves, smoothing out the rough patches of your day, polishing your mind until it is as smooth and fragrant as the heartwood itself. The scent of the temple fades, and we find ourselves on the damp, shaded floor of a temperate forest, crawling amongst the moss. Here, we find the wood sorrel, oxalis. It looks like a patch of oversized clover with 3 heart-shaped leaflets meeting at the center. It is a vibrant, sour apple green. The wood sorrel is a creature of the night. It exhibits a behavior called nyctinisty, night movement. As the sun goes down, the plant prepares for bed. Watch closely. The 3 heart-shaped leaves, which have been spread flat all day to catch the sun, suddenly drop. They fold downward against the stem, collapsing like a closed umbrella or a folded tent. This folding protects the underside of the leaves from the cold night air and the heavy dew. It is a gesture of conserving warmth. It looks as though the plant is huddling in on itself. The forest floor becomes a campground of thousands of these tiny folded green tents. It is a signal that the work of the day is done. The solar panels are put away. Mimic the wood sorrel. Imagine your own energy folding down. Your shoulders drop. Your eyelids drop. You're closing your umbrella. The rain of the world can slide right off you now. You're tucked in, folded down, and ready for the darkness. We rise from the forest floor and step into a different kind of forest, one that is contained entirely within glass. We are looking at a terrarium, or a Wardian case. This is a miniature ecosystem sealed off from the rest of the world. Inside the glass walls, a bed of lush moss, tiny ferns and creeping vines thrive in their own private atmosphere. Watch the cycle of water within the glass. The plants transpire, releasing moisture into the air. This moisture rises, hits the cool glass, and condenses into droplets. These droplets run down the sides of the glass like rain, watering the soil again. It is a perfect closed loop. Nothing is lost. There is a profound sense of safety in a terrarium. It is a world you can hold in your hands. It is protected from the drying winds, the changing temperatures, and the pests of the outside world. Inside, it's always humid, always green, always calm. Imagine shrinking down and stepping inside the glass. The air is thick and tropical. The smell is of wet stone and rich peat. You're in a bubble of perfect balance. The noise of the room outside is muffled by the thick glass. You're self-sustaining. You have everything you need inside your own atmosphere. You're a complete world floating in the quiet space of the night. We leave the glass bubble and float out over the open ocean, drifting on the currents of the Pacific. Bobbing in the waves is a coconut. It is the ultimate traveller, the mariner of the plant world. It has fallen from its parent tree and been swept out to sea, embarking on a journey that could last for months. The coconut is built for this. Its outer husk, the quire, is fibrous and full of air, acting as a life jacket to keep it buoyant. Its inner shell is stone hard, protecting the seed from the salt in the sun. But inside that hard shell lies a reservoir of sweet, sterile water. Think of the contrast: the rough, hairy, salty exterior, battered by the waves, and the cool, sweet, still water inside. The coconut does not worry about navigation. It surrenders to the current. It trusts that eventually it will wash up on a sandy shore where it can put down roots. You are that traveller. You are drifting on the dark ocean of sleep. Your shell is hard. You are protected. But inside, your spirit is fluid and sweet. You are just bobbing along, carried by the tides of the night, waiting to drift gently onto the shores of the morning. Finally, We drift from the ocean to a deep, ancient woodland where the canopy is so thick that no starlight penetrates. It is pitch black. But as your eyes adjust, you see a faint, ghostly green glow emanating from a rotting log on the forest floor. This is foxfire, the bioluminescence of honey mushrooms, armillaria. This is not the hot burning light of a fire. It is a cold light, created by a chemical reaction between luciferin and oxygen. It is a light that produces no heat. It is a spectral, fairy-like neon that pulses very slowly in the decaying wood. It outlines the shape of the mushrooms and the mycelium threads, creating a glowing map of the fungal network. In the absolute darkness, this light is a beacon of magic. It reminds us that even in the process of decay, there is energy. Even in the darkest places, there is light. It is a soft, eerie, calming illumination. It does not hurt the eyes. It invites you to come closer, to sit in the dark and watch the wood glow. The forest is breathing this light. Imagine that your own body is emitting this soft, cool green glow. You are a being of light in the darkness. You do not need to be afraid of the dark, for you are the source of the illumination. You are glowing with a quiet, cool life force, radiating peace into the shadows of the night. From the faint, ghostly pulse of the foxfire in the decaying wood, we travel to the ends of the earth, to the frozen banks of the Kolyma River in the Siberian tundra. We have reached the final secret, the most profound truth the plant kingdom has to whisper to us. We stand before the miracle of the Silene Stenophylla, the Arctic campion. This is the story of the eternal seed. Deep beneath the permafrost, buried in the fossilized burrow of an Ice Age squirrel, scientists discovered the fruit of this delicate flower. It had lain there, encased in ice and darkness, for 32,000 years. Think of that span of time. While this seed slept, the great woolly mammoths walked the earth and then vanished. While this seed slept, the pyramids rose from the sands and were worn down by the wind. While this seed slept, humanity discovered fire, built cities, fought wars, and reached for the stars. Empires rose and fell like tides, and through it all, the seed lay in the frozen dark holding its breath. This is the ultimate state of dormancy. It is life paused. It is potential energy preserved in a state of absolute stasis. When the scientists brought this seed into the warmth of the laboratory, something miraculous happened. It did not turn to dust. It drank the water. It sensed the warmth, and it woke up. It sent down a root. It sent up a shoot. It bloomed with delicate white flowers, identical to those that bloomed when the earth was young. It bridged a gap of 30 millennia as if it were merely a single night. This is the final lesson the plants have for you tonight. Nothing is ever truly lost. Sleep is not an end. It is a preservation. The seed does not worry about the passing of time. It trusts the ice. It trusts the dark. It knows that the spark of life within it is indestructible. As you lie here now, you're entering your own personal winter, your own sacred preservation. You're curling around the spark of your consciousness. You're handing yourself over to the timeless care of the night. You're the seed in the ice, safe, suspended, and eternal, waiting for the warmth of the morning sun to call you back to the world. But for now, the wait is sweet. The silence is deep. The preservation is perfect. The journey is complete. We have walked through the sun-drenched meadows and the dark, humid jungles. We have floated on the ocean and drifted through the desert air. We have touched the rough bark of the ancients and the velvet softness of the new. We have gathered the scents, the textures, and the wisdom of the green world, and we have planted them one by one in the fertile soil of your mind. Now the garden is quiet. The gates are closing gently. The wind has died down, leaving the leaves still. The flowers have folded their petals. The trees are standing guard in the shadows, their breathing slow and deep. The only sound left is the rhythm of your own breath, flowing like a slow underground river. The heavy, warm blanket of the night has covered the landscape, smoothing out the hills and valleys, turning everything into a soft, monochromatic shade of rest. You are sinking deeper into the earth of your bed. You're heavy, you're rooted, you're safe. There is nothing left to explore, nothing left to see, nothing left to do. The plants are sleeping, the birds are sleeping, the soil is sleeping. You're drifting away from the surface down into the cool, dark, nourishing depths where the roots drink in the silence. Everything is slow, everything is soft, everything is still. And now, 101 wonders are resting with you. Sleep now. Good night.